What's going on? Hour one. We are back. By we, I mean me, Brent, and Sammy Long's going to hang out for the next couple of hours as well. So, all right, let me explain, Sammy. And I appreciate you doing this and helping out, because if I don't have a voice, then that's a problem. So thank you. So let me explain the last couple of days, because for anyone that hasn't been here, we haven't had a show, right, since Tuesday. So you helped out Tuesday before the Aztec game against Nevada when I was struggling with my voice. We'll see how today goes. But then basically, I don't even know how I got through the game Tuesday night. I don't know if you heard. I mean, I was holding on. Brent can validate that. I mean, I was asking ChatGPT. I'm like, how do I get through this game? Like, I am struggling. It's like, oh, good question. So eventually I needed a couple of days because I couldn't speak basically by the end of the game on Tuesday night, which has so rarely happened to me in my career. I think I mentioned it to you the other day.
Yeah.
That I had a time in the minor leagues where I think I was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and my voice just went out, and I don't even know what I did. I just didn't do games for a couple of days, but that's basically the last time it happened until now. Fast forward like 15 or 20 years. And I think the combination of calling the Holiday Bowl Friday, then the triple overtime game killed me. And then I guess I just got like sick, and then I traveled to Reno and did a couple of shows and did the game Tuesday night. So anyway, I appreciate you helping out earlier in the week, and I appreciate you helping out today.
Well, I love being on with you guys. The hardest working man in show business. I told Fletch this earlier. I was like, listen, if Fletch or I's voice go out, people don't really care in San Diego. But if your voice goes out, it's a real problem for the Aztec game, because I don't know who's really filling in for that. Like, who is the backup?
I think you're the backup.
No one needs to hear that.
That is a really good question. Who is the backup? Do we get Uncle Teddy on speed?
That's what I thought.
I think we call Uncle Teddy. Do we call Hartman?
he was literally
just out with you.
He was making his pitch to be your co-host for the whole segment.
He texted me the other day. He's like, "Hey, do you know what they're doing with the job?" I'm like, "Steve, I have no idea, man. I have no voice. I mean, I'm just trying to survive the day." He's like, "Listen, if you need me, I'm here for you." And I'm like, "I appreciate it. I very much appreciate that." But I feel better. So here's what I've done for the last 2 days. First of all, it's been like the best thing ever. I'm like, when you don't have to do a job, when you don't have to go into, I'm like, this is great. I got all the day to myself. I'm like doing like work around the place. I'm cleaning the house. I'm paying taxes. Like, I'm doing all this stuff, but I've been drinking tons of tea with honey.
Are you a tea guy normally?
I'm a tea guy.
Okay, because I see, I don't like tea, and then like my mom makes me drink it when I don't feel well. Yeah, like it's the best thing for you, but like it's hard for me to drink tea. I don't know why. Right? I don't know why. I don't like it.
Here's the thing. I'm a big like chamomile. This is getting inside. This is a little inside baseball. Like inside tea. Yeah. Tea isn't necessarily good for your throat unless it's not caffeinated. So you don't want caffeine in your tea if your voice is shaky. So anyway, I've been drinking all this non-caffeinated tea, and I've been drinking water, and I've been resting, and then all of a sudden, like I feel okay. You hear it now.
Yeah.
I sound better than I probably did Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see how I am come 6 p.m. here today. But anyway, it's been an adventure, and it's good to be back. And I've missed this place, and I've appreciated everyone for helping out. Here's where I wanted to start. I saw this article yesterday from Dennis Lynn. There's so much to get into, by the way. Last night, college football playoff, the Trae Young trade. Not that anyone here cares, but whatever. NFL postseason. Chucky Lozano out at SDFC. We're going to get into it all. Ryan Battertelli, Aztec assistant, will join us with 3. Greg Camarillo's on the show today. Chris Hodge will join us with some betting advice for you coming up as well. But I want to start with the Padres. We're like a month out from spring training, because the Super Bowl, right when the Super Bowl ends, we'll have spring training. So Dennis Lynn writes this article yesterday in The Athletic about where is the A.J. Preller extension? And there's a couple of working theories on why has Preller not yet been extended. Hear me out on this, and I mentioned this a little bit with Jim maybe in December, but the more I think about this, and tell me if you think I'm crazy, like Jim would, I think some of the reason why the Padres have not come to terms with A.J. Preller isn't because the Padres don't want to come to terms with A.J. Preller, but it's because Preller doesn't know the future of the organization from like an ownership perspective. Is he willing to slow play it? Doesn't he have the leverage? As in, if his contract ran out at the end of 2026, isn't he going to have suitors?
I actually remember you guys talking about this, you and Jim. And I remember you mentioned if A.J. Preller, you like hypothetically, like if A.J. Preller got fired, he was not San Diego Padres GM. Like, wouldn't New York call? Like, wouldn't a bigger even franchise call on AJ Preller, because I think if what AJ Preller has done over the years has been successful. I know everyone points at the Juan Soto trade. I think that's a little bit revisionist history. You had to make that deal. AJ Preller would have been fired if it came out that he could have made that deal and didn't. Like this, it's every GM in baseball was trying to make that happen. AJ Preller, I get it with the potential lockout looming. You don't know ever since the late great Peter Seiler passed away, the team hasn't spent money at a clip that looks at, hey, we're really seriously trying to contend. So if I'm AJ Preller, do I want to lock myself into a long-term contract with a team that Craig Stammen is the manager? I'm not ripping the guy. Maybe he's a great manager, but it's obviously wasn't a big ticket free agent that they went out and got. Like the tea leaves are saying that this team is gearing up for a sale and they're not spending. So if I'm AJ Preller, I'm like, do I really want to link myself to this team for the long-term future? So I kind of agree with you. Like I think that that's a real possibility.
The reason I say it, we'll see. Watch, we have this conversation and they announce an extension in 20 minutes. I hope they do. I have been a proponent of what AJ Preller has done over the last half decade. Is he hitting at a 100% clip? Of course not. Does he need to get this team to a World Series or win at a higher level? Absolutely. Has there been some bad in there with the good? No question about it. He's not perfect, but I think all things being equal, most Padres fans would prefer him stay in his role. The reason I say it is we've now heard from the organization, not like today, but in recent history, like from John Seiler, like, hey, we want to extend AJ Preller. We just, there's an order to things in the offseason and we're working on it and, stay tuned, or yes, in the coming days or the coming weeks or the coming months. But you're like, well, hold on. The season ended October 2nd.
Right.
It's now January. So you've had October, November, December. You've had GM meetings. You've had winter meetings.
Press conferences.
Yeah, exactly. You've had a long, in professional sports circles, 3 months is forever. I mean, you could sign $300 million contracts. You could extend managers. You could make big trades. Like extending your GM should not be something that would take 3 months of time. And I'm thinking that if the organization has said publicly, we want AJ Preller here long term, then why isn't there a deal right now with Preller? And it takes two. I mean, he's got to sign the paperwork. And I kind of understand it from AJ's position if that is the case. Like, hey, the Padres aren't walking away from me. Therefore, if I slow play this out, if it's a good 2026, more leverage. If it's an okay 2026, I'm still going to have interest outside San Diego.
Well, in what all reports. So Craig Stammen, when he went to the press conference, he said that he wasn't even considering himself for the job. Yep. It was AJ Preller called him and because he was a part of the search and convinced him to throw his name in the ring. What franchise, if they were sitting there going, if the Padres were like, we don't think AJ Preller is the right general manager, would be letting him have such input on a managerial search, and then two, be making decisions. And not that the Padres have made a ton of signings and things, but they have made some, and they re-signed Michael King. You wouldn't be letting him make decisions for the future to then blow him out in a couple months. Like that wouldn't make sense in any sport, regardless of what it is.
I agree with that. And that's why like the situation that the Padres are in right now is a bit of a unique one, where it's not unique, like teams have been sold. But the issue is, and I remember the day that we found out that the Padres maybe were for sale, or the day that we found out Sheil Seiler had a lawsuit against the Seiler family. We had someone on, I think the writer of the story that broke the story at Sportico, is like, here's the issue. The issue, it's not that the Padres are for sale. There have been other professional teams in the major sports that have been for sale. The issue is, how do you make sure it doesn't impact on field or on court or winning? Because it's one thing to say it. It's another thing for the mechanisms behind the scenes to support winning at all costs. So what I mean by that is, think about the Padres offseason, and Dennis wrote about this a little bit yesterday. Yeah, they've made signings, and the King signing is significant. And the Korean hitter that they brought over, yep, and a couple of other moves around the edges, and they're around the edges, man. They're not of significance. But the total dollar allocation this offseason to these players is only in the neighborhood of like $15 or $20 million, because a lot of the King money's backloaded. They're all one-year deals other than the song, the Korean. So you have to ask yourself, like, is the organization fully committed to winning in the degree necessary, especially in today's baseball? When you look at a team like the LA Dodgers, you're in that division. So I guess it's a long way of me saying it's just a tricky putt. It's not to say the Padres are going to go 60-102 or they can't win or they can't be successful. I think they can. But the question is, with the organization in flux, are you putting everything to the side and putting winning at the forefront or not?
Right, because if I'm AJ Preller, I'm sitting there, like, let's just say I agree with you. I think AJ Preller is putting a hold up on this. Let's just say the Padres were kind of putting a hold up on him, though. If I'm AJ Preller, I'm going, wait, are the Padres even in the playoffs last year if he doesn't sign Nick Pivetta to a 4-year, $55 million contract, backloads that money, the final 2 years of that deal, which is why he's been in trade speculation, is because he's really becomes a player option. He can opt out. If Nick Pivetta has a great season, he's probably moving on to somewhere else. And then Gavin Sheets. Gavin Sheets carried him for months at a time in the summer. If either of those two players aren't there, are the Padres making the playoffs? I don't know. Like it's a real conversation. And Gavin Sheets was on a nothing deal and Pivetta contract. He kind of worked his way through. So if I'm AJ Preller, I'm like, look what I'm doing with not having a budget, with not having the free spending that obviously the Dodgers are able to play with and some other teams in the major leagues. But like, I think people criticizing AJ Preller is just not right. Like, I don't know where this team would be right now if it wasn't for some of his signings.
Yeah, like to your point, and I agree with you. And again, I always start from, and I would do this with Jim as well. It's not to say Preller's been perfect. I don't think he's been the sport's best general manager over his tenure. I do think he's been more of one of the more active, and he's kept the Padres in the forefront of like discussion. He's kept them kind of top of mind, so to speak, for the better part of the last 5 or 10 years. But I always say this, like, if Preller walks, you really think you're better off with the next version of AJ Preller? And the reason I say it is like the next GM is walking into the contracts that have already been signed. It's not like all of a sudden they're freeing up $100 million for this next GM.
Bogart's contract's not going anywhere. Machado's contract's not going anywhere.
So it's like, are you really hopeful for what it looks like on the other side? I could easily make the argument that the next general manager isn't as good as this general manager. Now, I don't know that. It's hard to really know that, but the more that this plays out, the longer we get without the Preller extension, the more I'm inclined to believe it's more AJ side than ownership side. And I don't know what to make of that, but it's another question mark heading into the year. Ownership in flux. AJ Preller on the final year of a deal. Spending not going up in a division with a back-to-back World Series winner. Like, just there's a
the Giants and Diamondbacks getting healthier, probably going to be in contention. And also, just to your point about what's your job as ownership, just in business or whatever sports league it is, make less questions for reporters have to ask. I remember we played the Marty Caswell sound on our show at the Craig Salmon press conference. The second question that he was getting was, "Where's your contract at?" And AJ Preller looks like he saw a ghost and is standing there kind of having to work around the question. And the Padres really have put him in a bad spot by not getting it done. Now, to your point, maybe it's AJ Preller going, I don't want to link myself to this right now. I want to wait and see. But with spring training not too far away, and the fact that, baseball season, right when the NFL's done, is gearing right up to go. Is this really something that when they're out there in Arizona, they're going to be asking about? Does your general manager have a contract going forward into the season? That just doesn't seem like a smart plan to me.
Yeah, it's almost like if you don't resolve it by spring training, you're opening the door to that line of questioning to start spring training. Is that really how you want to start your year? Hey, what's the plan with the future of your general manager, AJ Preller? That, to me, you almost have to get this done by February, or I'm just going to assume you're not going to be able to get it done. All right, here's what we're going to do on the other side. More on that. Would love to hear from you. Phone lines are open, 877-767-4760. Sammy Long hanging out for a couple of hours. John Schaefer with you here this afternoon until 6 p.m. Text line is open as well. 70470. You can start it with the word team. We do have Greg Camarillo, NFL insider at 4. Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State men's basketball assistant, will join us at 3. And Chris Hodge has free picks for our listeners coming up at 4:30. On the other side, why is Chucky Lozano out with SDFC after a massive year one for the franchise? A major mix-up, and we'll get into that on the other side. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. John Schaefer, Sammy Long, phone lines are open, 877-767-4760. What's your working theory on why A.J. Preller has not been extended? Or 70470, start it with the word team, 877-767-4760, or text us, 70470, started with the word team. Ryan Battertelli, Aztec men's basketball assistant, will join us at 3. It's a blackout tomorrow night at VA House. We'll have pregame coverage at 7. We'll preview San Diego State, Fresno State with Ryan coming up at 3. Greg Camarillo on this weekend in the NFL at 4. We'll get into that, of course, throughout the course of the show. And then Chris Hodge, free picks for our listeners, coming up at 4:30. There's so much to get into, including the NFL playoffs and this college football postseason as well. But we should mention, and I know you did during Fletch Zone, Chucky Lozano out with SDFC. This was the marquee move prior to their first season. And it had highs and lows. On field, he had a lot of success. He also missed some time. There was also some off-field issues, I guess, late in the year. And the way I would look at it is like this, Sammy, is that I feel like both parties got something out of it. If you're SDFC, that was like the marketing push,
right,
to get people behind your franchise before you ever took the field. And SDFC was wildly successful from a ticketing perspective and then non-field perspective. And if you're Chucky Lozano, it's like, okay, so you spent a year here, you can move on. Maybe this helps you get to the Mexican national team for the World Cup. Maybe it doesn't, but to some extent surprising. Chucky Lozano, the marquee signing for SDFC after one season, is out.
Well, to your point about the promotion, is no one could have expected what SDFC did. I mean, we've never seen an inaugural team outside of in hockey. The Vegas Golden Knights went to the Stanley Cup and lost their first year. That was really the only team that we've seen, expansion team, have the kind of success that SDFC had. So, right, you have your Chucky Lozano, your Milan Olaski, who was a big catalyst, Anders Dreyer, to kind of sell tickets, and then they ended up being really good, which was awesome for all of us in San Diego. I will say, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm a soccer X's and O's guy and know everything ins and outs, but it was a bummer to see how successful Olaski was, an Escondido kid, and then he moves on, then ends up in Philly. And then Chucky Lozano at the end of the year, and obviously I wasn't there, I don't have any inside sources, but I remember Adrian Garcia Marquez came on with Fletch and I was talking about the spat with him and Varas. Apparently he didn't want to come out of the game. So then he got frustrated, then he got benched, led to him missing a few games. And I love Adrian Garcia Marquez's point. He's like, listen, I get it. And I don't know what was said or what was said behind closed doors, but don't you want the guy out there who is pissed that he's coming out of the game versus the guy who's my hamstring's tight tonight, I can't go. So it's part of me is like, this team's obviously set up for the future, but it is a little bit of a bummer they couldn't have worked it out, because you feel like they could have used him in the last couple of games. But we'll see what they do going forward.
It's interesting you say that, because I feel like in sports there's this fine line where there's some franchises where it's like we above me works, and the sum is better than the individual, right? Like you just put it all together and you're like, wow, like they don't necessarily have the firepower of other teams. Well, I don't know. Like I feel like the NBA is sometimes a good example of that, where you just have a good team, even if it's not star laden. We've seen it both ways though. And then you have these star laden teams that are really good teams. That the other side of it, the issue with we over me, which again, I buy in team sports by and large, is I feel like it's a fine line, because you also have to have the level of talent that is necessary to win.
You have the guy that you're going to at the end of the game to get a bucket.
Yeah,
in basketball terms.
It's like, I remember when I worked in the minor leagues, I've mentioned this before with Jim, and when we did Jon and Jim, it's like I worked for a Pittsburgh Pirates affiliate out of college calling minor league baseball games. And I remember one night I went into like the clubhouse after a game, and I was just talking about like the roster. And I'm like, man, we got some just terrific people on this team. And I remember someone with the Pirates was like, that's terrific, but we're not in the business of harnessing great people. We're in the business of having great players. So it's like, and now you don't want a bunch of misfits. You don't want people that are working against you, but it's like, what does it take collectively to win? SDFC had the right formula last year. Now, can they replicate it, losing some of these pieces that they had a year ago?
Right. We'll see who they can get. And I know that the whole right to dream, they're this whole collection of young talent that they're developing. That's great, but it does feel like that's years away. And you do also have to have guys, and they got a lot of guys in Luca De La Torre and stars on the field. But it was a shame that was kind of even though SDFC won multiple playoff rounds, that was kind of a narrative in the postseason instead of SDFC's first year. We're also dealing with this side story of that one of your star players is beefing with the head coach. Again, I'm not there, so maybe he wanted out. I don't really know. It's still an early story from Mark Ziegler, but it's we'll be curious to see what they do next year. But obviously they're on the right track. It does suck though to see some of the stars of the city on their way out of town.
Yeah, what's interesting, like the SDFC model to win in year one, I'll kind of trust them because that's amazing. Like to go from
unreal,
like you had no one on your team like a year ago today to put together a team to win at that level. It's interesting because like the Padres theory has been like stars first. Like stars will sell tickets,
right?
Stars can help us win. Now the other side of that is that you have a lot of type A personalities. You have some drama. It doesn't always create the best teams. At times it does. You have a 2022 or 2024. But on the flip side of that, you have a 2023 with Juan Soto where they didn't win. They were out of the postseason. So it's like the trickiest dynamic in team sports is getting the formula right. Like you could have LeBron James and be good, or you could have LeBron James and be bad. Shohei Ohtani with the Angels, Shohei Ohtani with the Dodgers.
Well, to your point, you brought up the NBA. The NBA was always for years ever when Miami, when it was Bosh, Wade, and LeBron, it was you get a big three. If you have three stars, you have a chance to win a title. And then Brooklyn didn't work out with Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. Didn't work out in Phoenix. So we've seen this whole change in the NBA where it's not, look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. They end up having a big three, but it's really about the fact that their picks have really panned out in the deep team. Denver, when they won it a few years ago, it was Jokic and Murray in a collection of guys who played defense, and they went with the two stars. We're even seeing it. Trae Young traded for an Atlanta team you talked about, we over me, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Jalen Johnson, a lot of guys on that team that aren't household names, but play collective basketball. Today, John Morant, they're looking to shop from Memphis. Like there's a difference, I think, in change in the NBA specifically of going away from we just want marquee players to more of a group collective. And if we compare that to soccer or we compare that to baseball, I just think we see a little bit of a transition in sports as a total because of that.
Yeah, it's just, again, Chucky Lozano out. Doesn't mean SDFC can't win next year, but that is a fascinating storyline 1 year into the franchise here in San Diego. All right, let's switch gears. Wildcard weekend about to get underway. The college football semifinals are underway. That's going to wrap up tonight. It was great theater last night. What does the future of the college football playoff look like? Which quarterback this weekend in the NFL is facing the most pressure? Ryan Battertelli will join us from San Diego State at 3 p.m. to help preview tomorrow's game against Fresno State. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. San Diego State is back at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Fresno State. Our pregame coverage starts at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8. The second college football playoff semifinal game is today at 4:30. The winner of the Peach Bowl between number 5 Oregon and number 1 Indiana will take on Miami for the national title. In SDFC news, the team is parting ways with Chucky Lozano. And tonight we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on Giannis and the Bucks. Pregame starts at 7:15. The tip will be around 7:30. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
All right, back with you. San Diego Sports 760. Text line is open 70470. Start it with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. Or you can call us 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. John Schaefer, Sammy Long hanging out for a couple of hours. Good show lined up. Ryan Battertelli, second-year Aztec assistant, will join us at 3. We'll talk about the 4-0 Aztecs in the Mountain West getting ready for Fresno State. Greg Camarillo, our NFL insider, the former wide receiver in the National Football League, will join us at 4, and Chris Hodge will have some free picks for us coming up at 4:30. All right, so last night, and we'll get into, of course, Wild Card Weekend coming up as well. But last night is this epic college football game between Miami and Ole Miss. I mean, just an all-timer. And tonight we'll get Indiana and Oregon. We'll see if he can live up to that. That will not be easy. And of course, then we'll have a week from Monday in Miami, Hurricanes against either IU or Oregon. It was great theater. I'm a proponent of the expanded college football playoff. I know there's so much discussion about it. What's the right format? How many teams? At the end of the day, to me, more impactful college football or NFL football, whatever, more the better. And seeing something like last night, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you're not even in a situation to witness something like that. So I don't know what they're going to do with it moving forward. There was so much critiquing, right, with Notre Dame. Should they have been in? Should Miami have been in? Miami's in the national championship now. All I know is last night was incredible theater, and I'm all for more meaningful college football.
And I think this final 4 teams, for years it would be the college football regular season would have huge ratings and people would really pay attention. And then when it was the 14 playoff and perennially it was Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, and maybe Oklahoma. If you're not an SEC fan or Ohio State fan, you might have kind of tuned out. You might have just kind of been like, yeah, I don't want to watch Ohio State, Alabama for the 3rd time. Mm-hmm. But this final 4 set of teams, Indiana being one of the worst college football programs there's ever been before Kurt Signetti gets there, Miami not being good since the early 2000s, and then Ole Miss, the drama with Lane Kiffin. I mean, that's like a Hollywood script that your head coach leaves you and then you go win multiple playoff games. In terms of the game last night, it was fun seeing Chambliss and Beck kind of go back and forth at it. And were you one of the people at the end of the game that wanted PI called or no?
No.
Okay.
Did you want it?
Okay, so normally I'd say no, but
did you call for it earlier?
I did call for it earlier.
I want to hear this. I want to hear this.
So if there is this is my take. If there's a Hail Mary scrum where they just throw the ball up in the air and everyone's standing there, I say no call because everyone's PIing, they're grabbing each other, ripping it down.
Yep.
On that play, considering he had his hand on the ball and he was closer to it than anyone else and he's getting his jersey ripped down, I would have liked to see the 15-yard penalty because it's not a spot foul like it is in the NFL. It still would have been a one-play thing.
True, they wouldn't have been at the 1-yard line. Here's what I would say, and I want to hear from Brent as well, but here's what I would say. In final play scenarios, you have to go above and beyond, in my opinion, with the penalty to get the call. This is the same thing in college basketball. It's like, are you going to decide a game at half court that's tied on a reach-in foul with 0.7 seconds left, or it better be egregious. And I didn't think last night was egregious. Is it by the letter of the law of pass interference? Probably, but I thought there was clutching and grabbing both ways. It better be clear as day. And here's the other factor. It's Miami, who got ultimately screwed in 2001, right? With the PI against Ohio State. It's just like, I don't want a game decided right there. I didn't want that game to end. I would have loved to see overtime in general. That wasn't going to happen regardless on that final drive because it's a 4-point game. But to me, it's got to be above and beyond penalty to call it the final play of the game.
I just didn't want it because I thought they were both over each other.
They kind of, that's what I thought.
The defender had a hold of him, and at one point he had his hand on his chest pushing off on him. So it could have went either way. So in that situation, just let it go.
I hear all that, and I totally get it. And normally I'm with both of you. Like I really am. Like, don't throw that call, and you don't want the refs to get in the game. I just think because it was a pretty amazing throw, and he was the closest to the ball on the sideline, I felt like it was a little bit unique circumstances. But I guess then they call it, and then they go walk off the champion, or go to the championship on the next play. Then we're having the complete other conversation of, do you call that? So I get it's tricky, but I would have done the flag.
Yeah, I didn't love, honestly. So they took it. There were 6 seconds left, and I think Oregon took a timeout, and they were at the 35-yard line heading in, right? Ole Miss. So they're 35 yards out. 6 seconds. I'm thinking 10-yard out. Like, I'm trying to get closer. I thought they had another play. All of a sudden, you get to the 20-yard line. You're just drawing up a play. You don't have to throw it to the end zone. You throw it to the 6-yard line. Guys, you can run a play. He rumbles into the end zone. It's like from the 35-yard line, it's like a mini Hail Mary. From the 25-yard line, I feel like there's more plays in the playbook to potentially score on. That's a classic example as well of if you have another 2 play. If there's another 15 seconds, Ole Miss is going to win the game. Like, if they're running another 3 or 4 plays, it would have been very hard to keep them out of the end zone.
What did you two think of the Malachi Tony one? The one in the fourth quarter. Remember, he got his he toe tapped it, but then his heel came down out of bounds.
I thought he was out of bounds. Did you think that?
See, I thought it was a clear toe tap. Like, Fletch and I were talking earlier. I'm like, what defines the catch rule? Is it because the toe came down, but first, then his is first? But then the heel came down. There's a couple calls in that game, but it was a great game.
I mean, the fourth quarter was so epic. I mean, I think there were 4 lead changes and so many points scored. And now all of a sudden, I feel like we could talk about this coming up in a little bit. I think people are still writing off Miami like, well, the national champion is on the other side. It's either going to be IU or Oregon. Who even cares? Nice, cute story. But Miami at home. All right, so Miami is playing the national championship game at home. They're the little engine that could. A lot of people didn't even want them in. Look at Notre Dame fans thought Notre Dame should have been an O for Miami, even though Miami beat them earlier in the year. Would you consider it one of the great upsets in college football if Miami wins the national championship? I wouldn't.
No, because I mean, at one point this season, there was a real argument. Are they the number 1 overall team over Ohio State when they beat Florida? When USF and Byron Brown, that quarterback, they were winning a bunch of games. Like, Miami was a team. I thought Notre Dame and Miami should have been in. I honestly think that Alabama should have fallen out, and not just because they got destroyed by Indiana, because they got destroyed in the SEC championship game and almost lost to Auburn the week before that. But that's a whole, another story. But yeah, like Miami, everyone forgets that Carson Beck has been here before. He was the quarterback at Georgia.
7th year.
I mean, it's everyone acts like that with one of the best defenses in all college football, and Mark Fletcher running back, and then Tony, the superstar receiver.
Got stars.
Like, everyone keeps acting like there's some big underdog. I could see them winning. Like, I legit could do it. Now, obviously, I think Indiana or Oregon will be favored, but I think it'll be a good championship game, regardless of who it is.
What do you think, Brent?
I just think it's funny listening to all the SEC crybabies today about how, it's not fair because our schedule is so tough and we're too tired when it gets time to play in the tournament. The ACC schedule is so much easier, so they're well rested. That's why we lose, because we're so tired, because we're so good.
That to me never has been. I mean, it doesn't make sense in professional football. It's like the team. You know what I mean? Like, here's what I would say. The more we're deciding it on field, the better. Like, to your point on Notre Dame, I have no problem with them being in either, but I also don't have a problem with more teams in the playoff.
I'm with you. I want more teams in the playoff.
Again, I'm not saying it's college basketball. We don't have to have 68 teams. I'm not saying you have to have. Listen, nobody complains in college basketball when you have 31 league champions in. 31.
Right.
So we have 37 at large. We have 31 league champions in. What's so wrong with going to 16 or 24? Letting in another league champion or two, opening it up to more at-large spots as well, and determining it on field. Is that so bad?
Can we stop pretending that everyone is stopping what they're doing to watch the Cheez-It Bowl? Like this whole narrative of that these bowl games are ruined. Guys, for years, it's like we won a legit playoff. Like bowls were a big deal back in the day when there was a BCS national championship game and you have top teams in the country that are playing in the Rose Bowl or playing in the Peach Bowl, all these bowls. I'm totally with you expanding. And it's even more on display when you have a team like Notre Dame get left out and Tulane gets in because of the ACC champ, that whole situation. And then James Madison. I get if you want one non-power 4 team getting in for a shot, but it is like, this isn't basketball where you could have one star who's going to a small school who could beat Duke on any given night. Like, let's be real. James Madison, although they put up 34 points, was never in that game against Oregon. And it wasn't even a thought going into it.
The thing that worries me is they won't stop
expanding.
Yeah, they'll just keep going because of money.
What would ideally you want it to be? Like how many teams?
They could go maybe 2 more.
14.
Yeah, and then just stop, because eventually, what's one of the complaints that we have about lately about baseball and like the NBA? Oh God, they let everyone pretty much get into the playoffs. It dilutes it. And now it's like, who cares about the first round, because we have teams that barely were above 500 and now they're in the playoffs.
That's fair. They'll never do this.
Well, nothing real quick. And they're not this isn't going to open up more opportunities for non-blue blood schools either. This is just going to give more opportunities to schools that don't necessarily need it. Yeah. It's like Notre Dame doesn't really need the help, guys. They didn't get in this time, but that's it.
Here's what I would do, and they'll never do it. But to your point, I think your point is valid. I think Sean Lewis has made this point, but I think publicly, where you're right. It's not basketball. So the St. Peter's, Kentucky analogy works. Like the Cinderella shoe fits more in basketball and football.
Right.
I still don't think it's impossible to win in football, but I think it's harder to do it in football. If it was up to me, and nobody's asked me, 24 teams, all 10 league champs are in.
I like
the other 14 spots. Do as you choose. If they're all swallowed up by the SEC and the Big Ten, so be it. Now, I don't think we're going to get there, but if you go to 16, for me, keep 2 spots for the group of 6. If you go to 24, make it 2+ spots for the group of 6. I just want to see. I don't think it should have to be a perfect season for San Diego State or Boise State or USF to get to the college football playoff. And I think it should be, so we won our league, but we're the second best champion of the group of 5. Let 2 group of 5 champions in.
I think to that point, if it's a bigger field, I think people would be more open to your group of 6 teams. If the Cinderella story, I think where people maybe get a little tired of it is when you could have seen Notre Dame play Ole Miss, or Texas. Can you imagine Texas playing Oregon in the first round instead of James Madison, or Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia running his mouth about we should have been the Heisman. Well, let's go see you actually do it. Like these are big. USC was right after that. Not that they deserve to be in, but you would have got some big name matchups. But I think if you expanded the field, then seeing your James Madisons, then seeing your Boise's. Obviously, we'd all love to see San Diego State here. Becomes a lot more appealing because you have all those blue bloods in who have a real shot to make some damage in the tournament.
I think if they expand it too much too, the appeal is going to be lessened, because we're going to just get a whole bunch of conference rematches. We're not going to, a lot of the appeal of like March Madness tournament is you're going to get to see matchups that you wouldn't necessarily ever get to see. I always bring up like that one year when Xavier played Ohio State, because Ohio State always ducked them all the time, like during the Greg Oden, Connolly years. And they couldn't duck them when they played them in the tournament, and they actually got to play them. I just feel like I feel like it's going to be too much.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they ultimately do. I do think it should expand. The question is, what number is the right number for the college football playoff? The NFL playoffs underway this weekend. Which quarterback is facing the most pressure this weekend in the NFL? Wild card weekend. We'll get into that on the other side. Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State men's basketball assistant. Will Jonas coming up at 3 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. Starting Monday, San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the Bonus Bucks contest. You can listen at the top of every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword and enter it at sportssd.com. It starts Monday at 6 a.m. John Schaefer, Sammy Long, Brent Sperry, Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State men's basketball assistant, will join us coming up at 3 p.m. in about 12 minutes or so. We also have Greg Camarillo on the show at 4. Chris Hodge, free picks for our listeners, coming up at 4:30. All right, let's get into it. This weekend in the NFL, you threw this out earlier today. We're just going through some topics. This idea of who has the most pressure this weekend in the NFL, and there's probably no close second to Josh Allen, right?
I think it's certainly Josh Allen. I don't know if we were talking about it earlier on the show. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on it. Has there ever been a quarterback with more pressure than Josh Allen entering the postseason? And it sounds crazy because he's a 6 seed. He's going on the road the entire time unless he somehow matches up with the Chargers in the AFC title game.
Not happening.
Which is not happening. It's like, because with no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow, that's always been the excuse of why Josh Allen's never reached the pinnacle. Why he's never been there is because of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and then Joe Burrow. With none of those guys in there, if he were to lose, that means that a Bo Nix, a Drake May, a Trevor Lawrence, a Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, or an Aaron Rodgers is going to the Super Bowl over him. I don't know how the Heat's not the most pressure there's been in a long time, but what do you guys think?
I mean, I would say this, that there would have to be real fallout. Now, what does that look like in sports? I'm not saying, oh, Josh Allen's got to go. That makes no sense. That's not how the NFL works. I mean, you want these players. There's only so many Josh Allens in the league, and there's a lot of teams that would do everything to acquire a player of his talent level. But it's like Josh Allen at this point has been in the league for how long?
7 years, I believe. 7.
Yeah, so it's like it's at some point it gets to the point where it's like it's almost past your time. Like, yeah, Jordan had the Pistons, but then he broke through, and it didn't take 12 years like LeBron broke through. Now he did so through unconventional means with a super team, but like Josh Allen is 29, which means like you could certainly argue that his best opportunities to do it are now as opposed to later. Not that he's going anywhere. I think it'll be very good for 5, 7, 9, 10 years moving forward. But it's like, if you don't win when Patrick Mahomes is on the sidelines and Lamar Jackson is on the sidelines, by the way, there'd be just as much pressure, in my opinion, on Lamar Jackson if he was
totally.
But he's not. And look at the fallout in Baltimore, where the head coach, one of the winningest coaches in the history of the league, is now out. So I just think, to your point, it's not just pressure on Allen. I think it's organizational pressure. Like, something is going to change if Buffalo goes to Jacksonville and loses this game 31-17. I think something real is going to change.
If Josh Allen, sticking with the basketball analogy, if he loses, like you said, with no Mahomes and the whole field technically open for him, he's going to be another New York superstar. He's going to be Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing. As soon as Jordan and the Bulls started their thing, then Ewing couldn't get past the Bulls. Jordan retires to go play for the White Sox. Ewing had that one shot when they played Akeem and the Rockets in the finals, and then that year when OJ interrupted the whole final ceremony and everything. So I think if he loses with no Mahomes and all of his obstacles that he's had before, not even in the playoffs, he's going to become the NFL equivalent of Patrick Ewing.
I totally agree. Like, Fletch makes fun of me because he thinks I'm just hating on Josh Allen because I'm a Chiefs fan. But I'm like, I really think the reason, to your point, how many Josh Allens grow on trees? And people put him in the regard. People have said, like Colin Cowherd has said, he's the greatest quarterback he's ever watched. That has come from major sports networks, and people believe that. And to be fair to those people, he's unbelievable during the regular season. And there's been the 13-second game where he left the field with the ball. Mahomes and Kelsey go down the field. They kick the field goal. So I'm not blaming him for that one. But Burrow beat him in his house. Mahomes beat him in his house. Both his favorites, by the way, as Josh Allen being favored in the game. And then last year with 3:37 left on the clock in Kansas City, the defense gets stopped. He doesn't come through. So it's like, if we're going to hold Josh Allen in the same regard, and to your point about Lamar Jackson and pressure, you and Brent, it's like Lamar Jackson gets crushed for playoff record. Justin Herbert is going to get crushed for playoff record if he loses on Sunday. Jalen Hurts has won a Super Bowl, and it's been great in 2.
People want him out.
And people want him out.
Yep.
And it's like, it just, Josh Allen for some reason seems to evade a lot of this criticism to me. And I think this year there's really just no excuse not to get to a Super Bowl.
The one thing I would say, and tell me if you think the the thing, there's also the additional pressure of being the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
now I could look at it that two ways. It's like if you're the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they've won a lot. So you should win like they have. They've had quarterbacks that have won before, the Terry Bradshaws, the Ben Roethlisbergers. Like you need to follow that lineage. Obviously, the quarterback that follows Patrick Mahomes will be unbelievable pressure to win in Kansas City. But there's also pressure when you're carrying a franchise on your shoulders.
They lost 4 straight times in the 90s.
And then they weren't good for a long time. And now you're everyone's golden child. And like you have to do it for the city of Buffalo. It's like it almost goes beyond football. It's like, hey, I got to do this and I need to do it for a city and I need to do it for a head coach and I need to do it for my teammates. So it's like, you just got to be you. To your point, where he's been really good is with less of the pressure on his shoulders. Now it's like all you're facing is pressure, and you're a 6 seed. And if the expectation is to go to or win a Super Bowl, those are expectations that I don't even know if they're reasonable.
Well, and not. You said about Harbaugh, like think about John Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl in 2012. Yeah. He has been one of the most winningest head coaches the last 20 years. He takes Lamar Jackson, a player, we were on there on Tuesday when the news broke, who people thought should play corner or receiver coming out of college because of his measurables, and makes him a 2-time NFL MVP. And again, the NFL is a "what have you done for me lately" league. They're like, bye, you're on your way out to get someone else. So if Josh Allen's not going anywhere if they lose to Jacksonville on Sunday, but I think Brandon Beane, the GM, for not getting a receiver. They apparently could have had Jalen Waddle at the deadline. They didn't want to give up the pick to get him. Receiver's a big weakness for them. And then Sean McDermott. I don't know how Sean McDermott has a job if they lose in the playoffs, because Sean McDermott's never even been to a Super Bowl. I wonder if Harbaugh's going in there. I wonder if Harbaugh's waiting for a decision to see if that job becomes open. It's going to be fascinating over the next week or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because McDermott's a perfect example of like, well, really? He's won a lot. You really think you can do better, but also there's a point where the expectations change, and it's not about just getting to the postseason. We talk about this all the time in sports. It's like when expectations change, organizations change. Like it's not about getting to the postseason with the Bills. It's about winning the postseason. If you can't win with him, then find someone that can win. It's like Kentucky's not in the business of making the NCAA tournament. They're in the business of making the NCAA tournament and winning games in the tournament. And if you can't win games in the NCAA tournament, you're not long for Kentucky. But again, it's a fine line. Also,
I think McDermott is a lot like what Hartman used to always say about Mike McCarthy, about how he wasn't really that good of a coach. It was just he rode on Aaron Rodgers' coattails the whole time and made everyone think he was a good coach. So I think if they lose, I can see them getting rid of him because they're not going to get rid of Josh Allen.
I can't believe
No, what do you got?
No, I can't believe that they're road favorites. Like if you took away the jerseys, like Jacksonville's played maybe the best football in the last 2 months of the season. And I get it. People have faith in Josh Allen over Trevor Lawrence because Trevor Lawrence hasn't done it before. But it is fascinating to me that they're favored on the road when they really have not played good football the last month. It's just Josh Allen and James Cook.
Back to your point. It's like the expectations. It's the Buffalo Bills. It's Josh Allen. You got to win, right? Therefore, they're favored. All right, we'll switch gears. We'll get back to it. But Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State's second-year assistant, as the Aztecs are 4-0 in the Mountain West. They have Fresno State tomorrow night. We'll get into that game on the other side. Ryan Battertelli joins us next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The Aztecs are back at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Fresno State. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8. The second college football playoff semifinal game is today at 4:30. The winner of the Peach Bowl between number 5 Oregon and number 1 Indiana will take on Miami for the national title. In SDFC news, the team is parting ways with Chucky Lozano. And tonight we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on Giannis and the Bucks. Our pregame coverage will start at 7:15. The tip around 7:30. For victims of drunk and drugged driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
All right, Brent just mentioned it. San Diego State, Fresno State tomorrow night, Viejas Arena, a blackout game at Viejas. Tip off just after 8 p.m. Pregame coverage at 7. If tickets are available, you can grab them at goaztecs.com. Always our pleasure to be joined by Ryan Battertelli, second-year Aztec men's basketball assistant, back with us here on San Diego Sports 760. And first of all, Coach, appreciate you taking a few minutes. Hope you're doing well this afternoon.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's great to be on, and I appreciate you having me.
All right, so let's talk about some of the success right now in the Mountain West. I want to say in the last 8 games overall, the only loss is to number 1 Arizona, 4-0 in the Mountain West. Going back to Tuesday night in Reno, what did you think was the difference down the stretch? It was like a 1-point game, maybe with 3 or 4 minutes to play. San Diego State made plays. What was the difference down the stretch to earn the win?
I think the biggest thing was our togetherness and our toughness. I mean, I think, winning on the road is really challenging and really hard, and our ability to make plays and stay connected. And we needed everybody. And we say it all the time, like, we need everybody. Obviously, everyone knows about our depth, but we really needed everybody in that game. And we were really connected defensively to finish that game, to make, to get the stops that we needed. And then we were in the right spots for each other to make plays offensively. And that's what you need on the road. Sometimes it's not that pretty. We certainly don't think it was a pretty win by any means, but we were together, and we felt like we were the tougher team. When the cards were down, and we stayed connected, which I think is the most important thing for this team as much as anything.
Hey, Coach, the depth's been fantastic for State, but looking at that game specifically, Miles Byrd seemed to take on a really aggressive role, especially coming out of half. Early 3 was really aggressive. Can you speak to him kind of being more aggressive from the field offensively the last few games?
Yeah, we need Miles to be at his most engaged, aggressive best on both ends of the floor. And a lot of it, offensively is taking the plays that come to him. And he has spent a lot of time, watching film over the last couple of weeks and really figuring out, how to find his spots. I mean, even from last year, the evolution of how he's being scouted is a lot different. And for every young player, they have to address those things as they go through the season. I mean, he's at the top of the scouting report, and he's going to be guarded that way. A lot of times he'll be defended by the best players. And sometimes that means, he's got to, free himself up for other guys. Sometimes it means, he's got to be aggressive himself. And so I think that just that aggressive mentality to make plays, whether he's actually shooting the ball or making plays for others, is the most important thing. And he's getting better and better at looking, multiple plays ahead more so than, at the thing right in front of him. Like, he's starting to read defenses better. He's starting to read help. He's starting to see angles on his drives and penetration. He was really able to get to the paint in this game, which was awesome. And if he gets to the paint, if he, he'll draw a lot of defense, and whether it's offense for himself or offense for the rest of our team, it's all good things when he's aggressive.
Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State men's basketball assistant, with us right now. Aztecs and Fresno State. We'll get into that game. That's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Can you speak again? I mean, this is a constant question that's come up all year, but can you speak to the depth you have right now and the quality of play that's coming off the bench, which has been such a staple this year? But it was that quote-unquote second unit that got you back in the game. It was 14-2. And then all of a sudden you look up and it was a 1-point game at the half, and it was a lot of really good play from guys, again, coming off the bench. So what was it about that second unit, specifically maybe on Tuesday night, that allowed you to get back in the game?
Well, I mean, I'd say that, what is it about our second unit is that most of our guys on that second unit would start at a lot of places. I mean, we have real talent coming off the bench, and starting games is sometimes hard, especially on the road when the team is fired up and ready. And Nevada was on one. I don't think we were really a step slow. I thought they played really well. But as they wore down a little bit, our second unit came in and took advantage of that and did what they do. Everyone talks about BJ, and BJ has been great off the bench. Taj DeGorvo was spectacular in terms of his readiness in that game and his aggressiveness, and that's both sides of the floor. Those guys were ready, when their time was called, and they've stayed ready. And I think, accepting that role is not the easiest for young people sometimes. But the reality is they've, to a certain degree, accepted the fact that they are going to play, really important minutes for us, and that value is more than we can even, speak on. For those guys to be ready, and for those guys to give us that kind of depth, and to play against, another team where they look out there and go, man, these are their backups. That they don't look like normal backups, and that's a huge benefit that we have. And you look at our stat sheet in conference, we got, I think, 7 guys that are averaging 8 points or above. I mean, so as a guy that's scouting games, you're scouting your opponent, you look at it and go, okay, what do you do with that, right? And so there's challenges for the opponent when they're trying to scout us, and that's part of our strength.
The last 2 games have certainly been nail biters from a fan perspective, but been thrilling games to watch, and Aztecs coming out, on top on both. When you look at games like that, like early on in the year, obviously everyone would love for the Aztecs to run over them and beat them by 30. But there's something that kind of helps your team out moving forward when you're in a nail biting game like that, the 3 overtime game and the one on the road last night or Saturday night.
Yeah, I'd like it to not be nail biting either. We're stressed along with everybody else in Viejas, especially on that Boise game. But we say all the time in coaching, like, you'd much rather learn off the wins than the losses. And so there was a lot of teaching things that we were able to draw from the Boise game, and obviously even from the Nevada game, in those close games, because, until you actually go through those situations, you sometimes don't address it. You try to do as much as you can in practice. You try to do situational things, different, circumstances that you go through. But until you go through it, you're able to really look at the guys and talk to them about time and score. And what are we doing here? What are the matchups? What are they looking for? How do we need to defend this possession? What are we looking for offensively? And to learn those lessons off of wins are a lot more fun than the losses, obviously. But that's conference basketball. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, the guys knew it. It wasn't at halftime. There wasn't any complacency in the Boise game. Every guy knew it. We had to go out and have a mentality that it was 0-0, and Boise had to play the way that they did to come back in that game. And then we had to play we did, to make sure that we came back and took care of business. So that's conference basketball, against 2 really good teams and a rivalry in our league. And so there's going to be more of that. Unfortunately, we know what's coming. And those games are going to come down to, who's the toughest, most competitive, most connected teams that can execute at game time. I mean, that's what it comes down to, in conference games. And obviously that's what it comes down to in March.
I still can't believe that Boise game. Thinking back on it, I mean, honestly, it's almost an unbelievable game if you watch it in its entirety. Ryan Battertelli with us right now, San Diego State men's basketball assistant. Just speaking on where you are, and you've touched on this over the last handful of minutes, but what's the next step? Like, for San Diego State to get where it wants to go, what's the evolution you want to see right now moving forward?
We just need to continue to improve. Like, we need to go through every one of these experiences, these game experiences, and improve from them, and become more consistent and become, more connected, and to look out there and know what we're going to get out of every single guy. And that comes with time. That comes with experience. That comes with game experience. That comes with chemistry. Every guy is playing their butts off and trying their best to assert themselves and to earn more minutes on this team. As coaches, you always look and ask your guys all the time, when you're out there, what can I count on you for? And that's what we're looking for more than anything with each one of our guys. What can we count on them for? And the more consistently that they can make, positive plays, both offensively and defensively, the better we'll be as a team, and the closer we'll get to reaching our potential. I mean, we know the potential of this team is extremely high. We know our talent level is really high. Building chemistry and getting a better feel for what we can consistently, count on from each and every one of these guys will determine the level that we get to. And so we're asking for that every day from our guys in practice. And then obviously as we go through these games, we're looking for that all the time. And if you look out there we're in the last, 4 or 5 minutes of the game, as a fan, those are the guys that we count on the most. Those are the guys that we, trust the most, really. at the end of the game. And sometimes it's who's playing well throughout the game. And so maybe different guys at different times, but that's the most important thing for us as coaches is knowing what we're going to get out of guys, in terms of their execution, in terms of, just, being able to just know what they're going to do out there and be at their competitive best. And all the guys, are really talented and want to do it. Some guys are at different stages of that in their career. And we're learning that as we go along with this team.
Fresno's a very guard-oriented team. What are you looking for tomorrow night to kind of attack that defense? What are you looking for against Fresno specifically?
Well, they're a dangerous team. I mean, just like everybody in our league to a certain degree. I mean, they had Nevada beat at home. Nevada came back and made a game-winning shot. They're competitive in every game that they've played, even though their record doesn't necessarily reflect that in conference, but they're a dangerous team. I mean, they have, a returner in Collins who's really talented, a dynamic guard. He has great speed and he controls the pace of the game, or at least tries to. And then they have a transfer from Clemson who's really talented. He played at Air Force before he went to Clemson, who's really talented and is very problematic in terms of what he does offensively. So they're a dangerous team and they're a talented team. And then defensively, they're tough and physical, and they do different things to give you a tough time. And so, our biggest thing is try to be as aggressive as we can for us to dictate what we do both defensively and offensively. Make them uncomfortable with our defense and the things that we do with that, and then offensively control the pace of the game. Dictate to them, rather than let their defense dictate to us. And that was the message today in practice, is that we have to be in that mode where we take what we want in this game, and that will determine, the level of, success that we have in this game. So that's going to be our focus more than anything, but they're very dangerous. And obviously we know what it is when teams come and play us. I mean, it's an ability for them to be able to, to get a feel for where they stand in the league. If they can play against us, they can compete against us, if they can beat us, it gives everybody confidence. And we know we get everybody's best shot, especially in Viejas.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And Fresno, to your point, vastly improved coming off a big road win. They won going away against San Jose State. This is tomorrow night, Viejas Arena, 8 p.m., a blackout. So if you're heading to the game, wear black. Tickets, if available, at goaztecs.com. San Diego State and Fresno State for the only time in the regular season here in 2026. Ryan, always appreciate you taking time for us, and we will see you tomorrow night. So thanks for doing it.
Appreciate you guys. Go Aztecs. See you tomorrow night.
Looking forward to it. Ryan Battertelli, who's done a terrific job, terrific young coach, was at Irvine. We talked to him about it a year or two ago when he was hired. Spent a lot of time working with Kobe Bryant. Remarkably, when Kobe was living in Orange County, Ryan Battertelli was working for UC Irvine. Terrific young coach with a very bright future and part of Brian Dutcher's staff here in 2025-26. All right. On the other side, we started on A.J. Preller and his future. What about this roster that's playing out? The Padres coming to terms with 6 players via arbitration yesterday. We'll get into that on the other side. Plus, Greg Camarillo will join us, the former NFL wide receiver. Football night in San Diego on NBC 7. We'll get into Wild Card Weekend with Greg at 4 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. Right, we all remember that one teacher made a difference who believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Now's your chance to say thank you to Big Way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Today's teacher of the day, Beth Devos, who teaches at Avocado Elementary. Folks told us she loves to treat all her kids equally, especially our special needs students, and mix the best with limited resources. Congratulations to Beth. You're in the running to win $5,000 for your classroom. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long, Brent Sperry coming up at 4 p.m. Greg Camarillo, our NFL insider. Now back to the Padres for a moment. Yesterday, while I was sipping tea, they came to terms with, I think, 6 players via arbitration. Nothing here overly shocking. I mean, all of these players are coming back, but they always avoid basically going to court. They always avoid these arbitration fights. So Jason Adam, Mason Miller, Adrian Morahone, JP Sears, the catcher Freddie Fermin, Gavin Sheets, all back on 1-year deals. I think Sheets got $4.5 million. The reason arbitration matters for an organization like the Padres, well, who even cares? They're all going to sign. They're not free agents. They're all going to be back. What matters is, what are you paying these players? Because all of a sudden you add up this number, and arbitration means you go from X to Y. So Gavin Sheets last year, making it up, made $2 million. Well, he had a good year, so now he's making $4.5. Or Adrian Morahone had a good year, so he was making $1.5, and now he's going to make $3 or $3.5. You add those numbers up, and all of a sudden they're all getting bumps in pay. And again, the Padres are kind of feeling the ramifications of their payroll in general. The one thing I would say is a pitcher like Adrian Morahone is someone that, if I'm the Padres, I'm looking at is this someone I can keep long term? It's one thing to keep these players on 1-year deals. You made the point earlier. It's like Michael King, it's a 1-year contract. All these moves they've made are 1-year contracts. It feels like the Padres are so heavily invested in 2026, which is great. That's coming. But what does it look like on the other side for the Padres as well?
It's almost like, if the lockout happens, which is very widely expected as of right now, and hopefully it doesn't, but looks like it's going that way. It's almost like they're going to go try to win it this year, kind of run the same cast of characters back again, long season. I mean, for me, Mason Miller, half the guys on this team that we talked about as potential game changers going into the playoffs weren't there at halfway through the year because of that wild trade deadline day that A.J. Preller had. It does feel like these 1-year contracts. In Morahone, you wonder if you can keep him. Do you think he's the setup guy this year? Is that where you're putting him at? Or are you putting Adam there for Miller? Where are you? Is Morahone first out of the pen?
Okay, so Jason Adams, he's going to be back early in the year, but he won't be back day one because of what did he have? Was it quad injury? Remember he had that freak injury on the mound last year?
Yeah, and they got because it wasn't a Tommy John or anything.
No, it was lower body, which I think ultimately is going to be better for him long term. But I think Adrian Morahone, who's 26, that's it. He's 26 years of age. He had a 2.08 ERA. He had a sub 0.9 whip, walks and hits over innings. He had a 2.4 WAR. Yes, to your point, this is my setup guy. He's part of my future, hopefully. Now he's a free agent at the end of this year. They invested heavily in him when they signed him. He finally has paid dividends and been healthy. You're counting on him heavily in 2026. He's a candidate to potentially be here longer than just 2026. But again, it's who's owning the team after 2026? Right. Is there a lockout? What's your payroll look like? So how much of a factor is that going to be?
Well, it's so hard because all these contracts, players are asking the same thing when they're going out there. And I know we've talked, you guys have talked about it ad nauseum. We've talked about it ad nauseum. It's frustrating when you see all these big ticket players, not even big ticket players, just players that could really help the Padres on manageable contracts going elsewhere. But when their agent sits down, the first question is, when's the sale going through? Mm-hmm. We talked about it earlier, the A.J. Preller contract. That's going to come up in a meeting. They're going to go, is the guy trying to sign me even going to be here by the time we start the season? The Padres at the core you still think they're going to have a lethal bullpen. I'm excited to see what David Morgan is this year. It felt like in his limited opportunities last year, he had some moments. It just comes down to, I thought the Michael King re-signing was big in that they get, now you have, at best, you have Pivetta, King, and then Musgrove coming back. Mm-hmm. I still think, and you mentioned this on Tuesday, it's not a hitter-friendly park. So who's going to be at the back end of this thing? Because if Joe Musgrove is the 3, like theoretically that's great because Joe Musgrove at his peak is a fantastic pitcher, but he's also coming off an injury. So do you want to, if that's the rotation right now, you're gonna have to wear the top 3 of those guys out. Do you want to do that if you're heading into the postseason? There has to be some more moves made, and I hope this isn't just the roster that they're ready to go into for this season.
Yeah, here's my glass half full. Love the bullpen. Love the core of the lineup. You're asking them to do more than last year, but you could see its potential. And you're right. The front of your rotation is on paper good names in King, Pivetta, Musgrove. My glass half empty is King made 15 starts last year. So you're asking him for this huge increase in workload. Even if the injury wasn't like solely arm related, it was like back, shoulder, whatever it was. So King, I need more out of you. Musgrove, you didn't pitch last year. Not your fault. You had Tommy John, but what can you really get out of him? Like you're going to be cautious. And then Pivetta, can you replicate what you did?
You have to match production. And we all thought going into last year, I remember you saying this. I thought it was very, very valid. Like if you would have told anyone going into the postseason last year at the beginning of the year, Nick Pivetta is the ace of this rotation, you would go, oh no. Now, kudos to Nick Pivetta for being that lethal of a starter throughout the year, completely overperforming his contract. But it's a lot of hope. A lot of these signings, a lot of hope. But you talk about the, glass half empty, glass half full. It's a lot of what they can be. And it just, at the end of the day, it comes down to your stars can't go 2 for 22 in the postseason. Like at the end of the day, the guys that are getting paid have to play like the guys that are getting paid with their name on the side of the building. But there's a core group of tenants here for the team. It just feels like if they had a little bit more money to spend, they could really kind of round out this lineup. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's coming.
Yeah, and I've made this analogy, and I think it's a reasonable one where I'm comparing it to like Aztec basketball, where I think you may hit stride midseason, not necessarily day one. I think we're seeing it right now with San Diego State. On paper, you're like, Magoon Gua, 3 sticks and waters, highly acclaimed transfers. Well, you got to get healthy and you got to gel. And that's reasonable. It's like you don't just hit the ground running every single year. Like you're seeing a team improve, which is what you want to see. I think you do the same thing in baseball. There's a lot of teams that make the postseason. You don't have to win your division. If they don't get out of the gates red hot, first year manager, players coming off injury, can you get where you want to go eventually?
I like that comparison a lot because look at Magoon Gwath on paper, excellent player. There's a reason why Michigan and I believe Kentucky, a couple of the schools
absolutely
wanted him. But in terms of timing, playing Arizona and Baylor, 2 of the best front courts in the entire country, when you're still coming off an injury, not the greatest. But Magoon Gwath at the end of the season could be a completely different player than we saw a month ago. So I like that comparison with the Padres.
100%. All right. On the other side, we haven't gotten into this because it happened earlier in the week, but one of the more bizarre landing spots in NBA history for a superstar via trade. I mean, it has to be. We'll discuss on the other side. Plus, Greg Camarillo is going to join us from Football Night in San Diego at 4 p.m. The wrap coming up as well. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Napa Auto Parts. San Diego State is back at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Fresno State. Our pregame coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8 o'clock. In SDFC news, the team is parting ways with Chucky Lozano. The second college football playoff semifinal game is today at 4:30. The Peach Bowl between Indiana and Oregon, like I said, will kick off at 4:30. The winner of that game will take on Miami for the national championship. And tonight we got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on Giannis and the Bucks. Pregame starts at 7:15. The tip will be around 7:30. In the automotive industry, time and trust matter. Miss an electrical problem and it can slow everything down. That's why Napa delivers electrical solutions the pros trust. The parts, tools, and expertise to catch problems before they become breakdowns. That's Napa know-how.
All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long, Greg Camarillo is going to join us at 4 p.m. And we'll talk about this weekend, the wild card weekend in the NFL. So we'll get back to the NFL. We're here until 6. Aztec basketball tomorrow against Fresno State. Pregame coverage at 7. Tip off just after 8 p.m. So we touched on this Tuesday when we, I think, received word that Trae Young. This happened quick. Trae Young wanted out, right? He's requesting a trade. And we're like, man, Trae Young, like he's still on the right side of 30 and one of these players that doesn't get talked about, but like a top 15 type star in the league. Like, man, I can't wait to see the suitors. And what is this trade going to look like? Never did I ever expect in my wildest dreams he would end up with the Washington Wizards and the package would include CJ McCollum and who else?
Corey Kispert.
And Corey Kispert. I'm like, wait, is Trae Young the player I thought he was? And B, Trae Young's preference was Washington. He forced his way out of Atlanta for Washington.
Minnesota to go play with Anthony Edwards was interested in him, and he was like, "I want to go to Washington."
So what was the working theory from Trae Young's perspective?
So they do have a lot of young talent, like Alex Sarr, the Keyshawn George. Pick. There's some pieces there.
Okay.
They have a lot of cap space and stuff in the future. But yeah, it is odd. Like the Washington is not a team. They're 10-26 right now. They're not going to be in the playoffs unless they go on some crazy run. And I'm kind of shocked. You and I were talking off air, like how bad or how Washington has not been like a big market, has not been a relevant team for years. The last time they were relevant was John Wall, and they weren't even that relevant there. But I'm curious, Brent, like you're a big Bucks fan. Like we hear Trae Young traded, Luka traded last year. All of a sudden, John Morant wants out. But then Giannis reiterates he wants to stay yesterday. Like, what's your reaction to that? Would you trade Giannis or would you like keep him as long as he wants to be there?
If he wants to be there, you keep him. Yeah. Unless, someone calls up with, some Godfather type offer that's just too good to pass up. Then, yeah, if he wants to be there, then he stays. You don't, because otherwise you're going to be Dallas. If Luka claimed he wanted to stay there, but then they're like, oh, we don't care. We're going to get rid of you anyway. So if he wants to stay there, then you just keep him there. I thought it was just weird that, when it popped up on SportsCenter that, oh, his preferred destination. I'm like, oh, is it going to be like the Lakers or something? And it's like the Wizards. I'm like, what? I thought it was like some fake AI thing that was on Facebook at first. But after that is, the weirdest thing is usually when you play for a crappy team and you demand a trade, the big caveat is I want to go to a team that isn't crappy anymore. And I want to go play for a good team.
I want to go to a worse team than the Hawks.
Exactly. It's like, so now you're going to go from a horrible team that will probably not make the playoffs to go to another horrible team that will not make the playoffs. What was the point?
Real quick. So here's the thing. The Wizards, when you think about downtrodden professional Big Four franchises, the Wizards don't typically make your list. The first place you're looking, like historically, Bengals and Browns and even the New Orleans Pelicans or the Charlotte Hornets, right, would come up. Or in baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates of the last 30 years, maybe the Marlins, right? The Washington Wizards are an inept franchise. Their last trip to a conference final was 1979. They lost in the NBA Finals. That's their last time they made it to a conference final. 1979 is 47 years ago. So they're in a net
and they're
franchise.
Perennially picking at the top of the draft, which is crazy because of the lottery.
Are you going to trust in? You made a good point. Well, they have pieces, they'll have money. They've added Trae Young. But sometimes a bad organization is just a bad organization. Am I really trusting in them to get it right?
I will say, though, I think this is a little bit of repercussions of how good the West is. The West, you have Oklahoma City, who's not going anywhere, despite them struggling the last couple of weeks.
San Antonio, LA, Denver.
Right. The Rockets, like you have 5 teams. Yeah. The Lakers to a lesser extent because they don't play defense, unfortunately. But they are going to be good in the future when LeBron gets his, comes off the books. Like the West is loaded with young stars. If you're the Eastern Conference, Detroit's atop. The Knicks are really good.
Yep.
Like
who else?
Like Boston. I think the Sixers have some nice young talent with Edgecombe and Maxey, but there's not this like gauntlet of teams that you have to get through. So I guess if you're Trae Young, you go to Washington, you could probably build something and be in the playoffs next year versus in the West. I mean, it's like the Warriors are not having a good season, and still if Golden State gets in the tournament with Jimmy Butler and Steph, they're a live dog in any series, and they're a fringe playoff team right now, just so you know how hard it is in the Western Conference.
It's just like, I do love the point by Brent, and I thought the same thing. It's like, wait, you're requesting a trade to the Washington? I mean, some of it is a breath of fresh air because you always hear the same thing. It's like every player in all sports wants to go to like New York, LA, Miami, it's Lakers, it's Dodgers. Like it's the same old story no matter what you do. So part of me was like, I kind of respect the idea. It's like watching IU, Indiana, be really good at college football.
Right.
Like, I kind of respect its fan base because they've had to endure a lot of losing to get to this winning. I respect a player that's willing to request a trade to the Washington Wizards because like it's never happened in basketball history.
Well, and if the playoffs started today, Atlanta would have been in.
Exactly.
So he went from a team that would have been into the playoffs to a team that there's no way, it doesn't matter how weak, the East is, he's not going to do anything with Washington.
I'm surprised Atlanta didn't want to keep him. Now there's reports that he kind of fell out of favor with team. It's difficult because like Nickeil Alexander-Walker went there and is all of a sudden a big time scorer. Jalen Johnson's coming out of nowhere as a big time scorer. Like they have got Rasace, the former number 2 overall pick. Like there's guys on that team, Atlanta. You'd think like Trae Young's missed most of the season. Him coming back would be good, but I'm surprised for how little package. Like, why do you want a 35-year-old CJ McCollum?
Yeah, like give me picks. When I think star power, I'm always thinking like you see, especially the NBA, you see this like flurry of picks in star power trades.
And swaps and everything, right?
And that's why the Luka trade, everyone was so surprised. Like, well, where are all the picks? Like, I thought there'd be this slew of picks heading to Dallas, but historically in the NBA, it's like they trade picks like they're going out of style.
The Lakers should have no picks to work with. They're actually gonna have a ton next year because of Nico Harrison. Like they should have taken Austin Reeves, connect every single pick that the Lakers had for Luka Doncic. I think that's what's like with Giannis and John Morant, all these players who are potentially on the move. It is because of the Luka trade. No one wants to get fleeced, but then the Luka trade is also a barometer because there's very few players in the league who are better than Luka Doncic. So that trade has like the value of trades going forward has kind of affected the NBA in a weird way, which is why the Trae Young trade could have went for a lot less than we thought Trae Young would have went for.
I still think it's insane. Like when you in a league like the NBA, where like one player has so much power to impact winning. That still amazes me because there's so many stars on the move. Like in baseball, the reason I say it, like Shohei Ohtani could end up in a franchise and not win. I mean, just look at what happened with the Angels. Now he was put in a scenario where he could win and they were able to
with
build
Mike
around
Trout
him.
And they couldn't make playoffs.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, there's no guarantee in Major League Baseball you have the best player and you win. I mean, win it all. Football, same thing. The Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons. I mean, they've won to some extent, but they haven't gotten over the hump. NBA though. You end up with Luka Doncic for 15 years. That could be the difference between winning 3 NBA titles or 0. You end up with LeBron James and the way his career has.
Right, you're not winning an NBA championship without a star.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, by and large, right? By and large, it's really hard. And then yet still, you see, Dallas and LA agreed to this Doncic trade, and the Mavericks didn't even talk to any other teams. Like, how's that even possible? You just impacted the next 15 years of the league. And traded this player that could win 5 titles.
That's why Rob Pelinka is the gaslighter of a decade. He said he wanted them to build trust. That's why they didn't talk to any other teams. Because there's no way the Lakers would have got Luka Doncic
if they were talking to all these teams.
All these teams. The Thunder would have offered the next 8 first-round picks as well as Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams to pair him with Shea. Like there's no way that would have happened. It is back to the Trae Young thing. It is. I'm surprised he went for so little. And listen, it'd be cool in the NBA if the Wizards were just like a better team. Like they've been bad for so long. It's a big market, but I guess kudos to Trae Young for being the best player on the Hawks team, then going to a team where they're going to build around him once again. We'll see if he can have any success with that in the future.
Yeah, like will we ever hear from him again? And not like we were hearing from him a ton in Atlanta.
When he gets traded again.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, is he Kevin Love in Minnesota for years? It was like Kevin Love was dominant. He was an all-star, but he never won anything.
That's a good analogy. All right, on the other side, back to Wild Card Weekend, and why are some quarterbacks facing immense pressure and another one is not? We'll discuss on the other side. Plus, Greg Camarillo, Football Night in San Diego, NBC 7, with much more on this weekend coming up at 4 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long with you until 6 p.m. Greg Camarillo, former NFL wide receiver. We'll get into this weekend with Greg coming up in about 15 minutes. We'll get to the wrap at 4:15. If you miss Ryan Battertelli, Aztec assistant, you'll hear that coming up at 5 p.m. So remember earlier, like an hour ago, we spent all this time on the pressure on the shoulders of Josh Allen for himself, for his organization, for the city, for upstate New York. I mean, not just for the city of Buffalo. Rochester's running on you. Syracuse, Ithaca, Cortland, whatever else is Oneonta, right? I mean, Niagara Falls, Toronto. Like, I'm telling you, that region of the country where it's snowing every day and they're clearing off their car every single morning from the frost, they're relying heavily on what's going to play out this weekend. And then 3,000 miles away, you've got Justin Herbert. No city is relying on him. No, there's no pressure on his shoulders. There may be in NFL circles, but Justin Herbert's never won a postseason game. Chargers have been relevant with him. He has compiled stats. He's been a good quarterback. You could argue a very good quarterback. He's been in the postseason a couple times. This will be his third opportunity coming up this weekend. Is the reason why he avoids the criticism by and large is because he plays for a franchise that just is such an afterthought in the league?
I think so, because it's tough because Herbert, CJ Stroud, and Trevor Lawrence have all had similar careers to me. They both all came into the league and kind of took it by storm, and were kind of all three of them crowned as the next they're gonna creep in the top 5 quarterback conversation. They all have second year regressions, and now they're all back in the postseason. And Justin Herbert is 0-2. He blew the crazy lead to Trevor Lawrence in the Jags. If you remember that game, up 27.
That's right, yeah.
And then last year, he has 3 interceptions going into the playoff game total against Houston, and he throws 4 in that game alone. And it just feels like, again, this year, they don't have an offensive line, which is true. Slater and Alt, their star left tackles, are both out. They've been out for the majority of the season.
Most of the year.
And like, you look at every year, there's kind of been an excuse. I don't think it's all Herbert's fault, because Brandon Staley, I thought, was an awful head coach. I didn't think he was reinventing the wheel, just going for it. That was kind of his thing. You just go for it every time on 4th down. And then he didn't have receivers last year. But we all talk about Josh Allen, him needing to get it done, which I think is very, very true. There's a lot of pressure on him. But Herbert, like, if he loses this game with, again, no Mahomes, Lamar, or Burrow in the playoffs, Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to be back next year. Bo Nix, whatever you think about Bo Nix, I'm not really a believer yet, but the Denver's not going anywhere, and maybe they go win a Super Bowl, and we all have to respect him. If you lose a Drake May, one of the second-year quarterbacks in this postseason, I feel like he deserves a lot of criticism that will certainly be on Josh Allen if he loses early in this postseason.
I think Justin Herbert has one of the best jobs in sports, because he will never be under anywhere near the pressure of Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, who's won at a ridiculous clip, one of the winningest players in the history of the league, Josh Allen, who still needs to win, Lamar Jackson, who still needs to win. Justin Herbert could go through his entire career, win 4 playoff games, never play in an AFC title, reach a Hall of Fame based on the stats that he'll compile as a modern NFL quarterback, and nobody's going to be the wiser. It's like, with Phillip Rivers, you were in San Diego, a city that embraced you. There were expectations, there were hopes, there were failures, there were great seasons that didn't end up great in the end. The current iteration of the Chargers, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, it's just like, where's the magnifying glass? Where's the attention? You can do it. It does not matter. Of course, it matters to some extent, but compared to the other franchises in the NFL, when the Browns don't win, even though they're the Browns,
Cleveland loves that team.
Cleveland are going to lose their mind.
Into half of San Diego hates them, and there's a portion who still supports. There's the half of they're dead to them. Then in Los Angeles, the most favorite team is the Raiders, and then the Rams, and then far on the list is the Chargers. Brett, your Bears this weekend. Caleb Williams playing his first playoff game. I think more people will crush Caleb Williams if he loses in this game on Saturday night against a division rival Green Bay
than if Herbert loses
to Drake May, which I think is crazy to me, just in general.
I don't know. They've kind of given him passes on other stuff, like when he misses wide open throws and stuff like that. So I don't think they will yet, but I think that they'll be waiting in line to do that. I think that's a side effect of just being the number 1 overall pick. If you don't, have high success, then people are going to instantly just label you a flop and a failure. So I think just they won't say anything, but if it starts to become a trend, like it kind of is with Herbert, then I think they'll make more of a thing about it.
Here's what's interesting. As we know, like NBA, NFL quarterbacks, you need rings by and large, right? To be considered one of the greats. And NBA, you need rings. Everyone talks about this, titles. Baseball is completely different. I mean, it helps. You're not going to kick them out of bed, but we're not going to look back on, you're not going to look back on Mike Trout's career and be like, well, guy wasn't a good hitter. No, you're going to look back. It's always going to be a part of the story.
It's going to be the Angels didn't put a team around him to compete.
And he's always going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, yes, I think to be considered the greatest quarterbacks in league's history, it helps. Although I think a lot of people tell you Dan Marino's a great quarterback. And at the end of the day, like I said, if Justin Herbert just puts together 15 or 17 years and never wins, it's almost like a different story because it's the Chargers. Like you play 15 years for the Buffalo Bills and you're Josh Allen. Like, I don't even know what the story is going to be if he doesn't.
Right, he'll be eviscerated.
Yeah, he'll be eviscerated. Where if you're Justin Herbert, not to say he's going to spend all 15 or 17 years in LA. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I feel like if you did do it, it's like, that's fine. He was a great quarterback.
Well, it's crazy to your point about Philly is that Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl last year, has been to 2 and played great in the one that he lost to Kansas City. And if Jalen Hurts loses this weekend to the Niners,
try to kick him out of town.
Kick him out of town, and Herbert's never even won a playoff game. I'm curious if the narrative changes, if it does become pressure on him, if he loses this game, or to your point, it's just like,
is there such a thing with the LA Chargers?
With the Chargers, is there pressure? And I think we'll see that after Sunday. I think that's a valid point because it's not the Dallas Cowboys quarterback will be under immense pressure because you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and the Chargers are obviously nothing close to that.
It's like you said with baseball. Stats matter over championships. If you have a championship, that's nice, and we'll add it into the equation, but we care more about your stats than whether or not you win. Football is the complete opposite to where, like look at Phillip Rivers, him and to a certain degree now, Detroit and the Rams guy. I'm having
Jared Goff.
No, Stafford. Oh. They get labeled stat patters, and they just played so long that they're in top 10 in stats because they just played so long, so they've just been padding their stats. They don't reward that unless you have a title to go with it in the NFL.
That's interesting. I mean, Stafford has his title now. Drew Brees has his title. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that puts him on a different level to some extent.
But we'll take Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, the same draft class. Like if you took the stats, Phillip Rivers blows Eli Manning out of the water, but he won 2 Super Bowls.
Exactly. So now here's the thing. At the end of the day, I think most people agree. Phillip Rivers is probably a Hall of Fame quarterback.
I think so. I totally think
so. Some of these sports. Again, is anyone saying Phillip Rivers is Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes? Of course not. But at the end of the day, if you're in Canton, you're in Canton. I just think it's just an interesting story. The Chargers, and we've made this point, it's a beating a dead horse. But the Chargers give me another example of this in modern American sports. A team moves to a city that wasn't requesting them. So in every other example of a move, every example, when the Minneapolis Lakers moved to LA, I'm sure they were embraced. When the New Orleans Jazz moved to Utah, they were embraced. Or the Phoenix Coyotes moved to Utah, they were embraced. By and large, that's the whole point. The teams move. When the San Diego Clippers moved to, that's a bad example, but when the San Diego Rockets moved to Houston, they were embraced. The Chargers are basically one of very few examples. Maybe the LA Clippers are actually a good example. Who wanted the San Diego Clippers in LA 40 years ago? But nobody was asking for them. Therefore, they're such a unicorn in American professional sports.
To that point, have we ever seen a team or a political situation where Stan Kroenke, owner of the Rams, wanted the Chargers because he didn't want the Raiders because he knew the Raiders would just dominate. The Raiders would be LA's team. He wanted
them to be the second act to his main theater.
Right. He knew that the Chargers would never overtake the Rams, but the Raiders certainly would overtake the Rams and would be bigger than the Rams, even though the Raiders haven't won in years and have one of the biggest fan bases in all the NFL. It is. I'm curious if it ratchets up, or if it's just if you play in the Chargers your whole career, and if you don't win, it's just kind of accepted. I wonder if that is
a tree falling in the forest. I mean, it's if you win, amazing. Although, again, I don't think you remember the same way either. If you win a Super Bowl with the Chargers, again, hell may freeze over. But if the Chargers win a Super Bowl, how will that be remembered compared to, I don't know, the Chicago Bears winning a Super Bowl? I mean, that's a completely different conversation.
Right, the Chicago Bears winning a Super Bowl
because it's been forever and it's massive. It's
that would be like
city.
honestly like not a Cubs winning, I guess, because Cubs hadn't won 100 years, but like that's the kind of franchise that the Bears are. That would be a massive.
Compare
story.
it like this: Chargers have never won a Super Bowl. Browns have never won a Super Bowl. Right?
Browns would be a much
bigger story.
Right?
Exactly. All right, Greg Camarillo with much more on Wild Card Weekend. On the other side, the wrap still ahead as well. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. The Aztecs are back at VS Arena tomorrow night to take on Fresno State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will start at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8. The second college football semifinal game is today at 4:30. The winner of the Peach Bowl between number 5 Oregon and number 1 Indiana will take on Miami for the national championship. In SDFC news, the team is parting ways with Chucky Lozano. And tonight we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on Giannis and the Bucks. Pregame starts at 7:15. The tip will be after 7:30. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, wild card weekend in the NFL. Great to connect with Greg Camarillo. Football night in San Diego on NBC7. Former NFL wide receiver John Schaefer, Sammy Long with you, and Greg Camarillo back with us. Postseason underway in the NFL. So, Greg, first of all, Happy New Year, and thanks for hopping on here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend. What do you envision the fallout would be if Buffalo did? Now, this isn't the easiest thing in the world. I mean, Buffalo's got to go to Jacksonville and win. If they don't win this game, what does the other side look like for Buffalo? Is Sean McDermott in jeopardy?
No, I don't think Sean McDermott's in jeopardy, but I think it is a Josh Allen legacy game. And it's not necessarily fair to put these wins and losses on NFL quarterbacks, but it's what we do. In my mind, the NFL quarterback is the most important position across all major sports. It's usually touches the ball every play. It's kind of like a pitcher, but pitchers don't play every game. The point guard, but also the scorer. And so the quarterback is going to get the blame or the success because it is the most important position. And, Lamar Jackson, the kicker misses a field goal. He's not in the playoffs. The blame comes to Lamar Jackson. Last year, Mark Andrews drops a pass for Lamar Jackson. Lamar can't get it done. Josh Allen has had to face Patrick Mahomes over and over again, but it's Josh Allen that can't get it done. And so here he is. He finally gets his way to the Super Bowl, his path to the Super Bowl without Lamar Jackson, without Patrick Mahomes, without Joe Burrow. And so this is a legacy moment. Are they as good as they are in the past? Absolutely not. But the fallout could be, what is the legacy of Josh Allen? A lot is riding on this playoffs. Whether it's fair or not, it's riding on these playoffs.
There's 4 actually road playoff favorites. The Rams, Packers, Bills, and Texans are all favorites on the road. Do you think we're going to see a lot of parity and a lot of road teams winning, or do you think we're not giving the top seeds enough love and respect?
I love the parity, and I think what's going to make it even more equal of a playing field, the weather. I asked Siri to look up all these destinations for me. Charlotte is going to be warm but wet, like 70s and raining. Chicago, the absolute worst, which is 35 wintry mix. So not only is it freezing, you get wet and then you're freezing. Philadelphia is going to rain. And so that is going to make things more equal because you can't just bomb the ball every play and get big explosive plays. You're going to have to grind it out in the trenches. The home advantage is huge. They gotta start giving a little more love to the home teams, especially in the playoffs. But the weather is going to keep things nice and close in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. It's going to be interesting to see the weather, how it impacts the postseason here in 2026. Greg Camarillo, Football Night in San Diego, NBC7, the former NFL wide receiver with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. We briefly had this conversation, Greg. Curious to get your thoughts on it. Obviously, all this pressure on Josh Allen. If Lamar Jackson was in, there'd be all this pressure on him. Justin Herbert, by and large, I don't know how much pressure there really is. He's 0-2 in the postseason. They're obviously an underdog as a 7 seed. He plays for, a franchise that doesn't get near the attention as a lion's share of these franchises in the NFL. Do you think there is pressure on Justin Herbert at this point or not?
No, I don't think so. I think we're not getting full Justin Herbert, which is terrible. And it's just been pretty much this way for his career. It reminds me of Andrew Luck, an amazing talent that just keeps getting beat up and can't catch a break to go win a Super Bowl. But Justin Herbert, in my mind, is a top 5 quarterback, potentially a top 3-4 quarterback. He is literally one of the best out there, but he's fighting for his life every week. And so because he has both of his Pro Bowl tackles out, he's had multiple running backs out, he doesn't have a true number one wide receiver. You can't really put it on him. And, I know that goes against what we just said about the quarterback getting all the blame, but he is the reason they have been this successful. He is the reason they are in the playoffs. And if you needed any other argument, just go look at Trey Lance and how he played with the Chargers in the 1 week he started. They looked horrible. So Justin Herbert is the glue that's been holding this whole thing together. And so I don't think there's any pressure. No one's expecting anything of the Chargers to go into New England and win a game. So no pressure. He can only benefit, but the poor guy's been slaughtered all year and has been surviving and carrying his team with him.
What second-year quarterback, Drake May, Bo Nix, and Caleb Williams, do you have the most faith in this postseason?
Oh, it's I have the most faith in the Broncos as a team because of their defense, and it's not my faith in Bo Nix. It's not my faith in Drake May. It's definitely not my faith in Caleb Williams. But I do think that Bo Nix has the best shot because of Denver's defense and because Denver is a tough place to play. Not saying Foxborough isn't. Drake May has put up better numbers. He's in the MVP conversation, which I think is a runaway for Matt Stafford. But I think Bo Nix has the best shot to go further because of the complete team that is Denver.
Greg Camarillo, Football Night in San Diego on NBC7 with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. How much of a chance do you give the Niners this weekend in Philadelphia?
I give them a good chance. People always grade you on your latest performance, and the way to do that with Brock Purdy is to be like, oh, he's struggling. He's having a rough time. But if you ignore the last game in which he clearly had a rough time and look at like the last month, Brock Purdy was on fire. He was lighting it up, and not just, making plays that were there. We're talking beautiful plays, the precision on his passes, the accuracy. And I think that's the guy we're going to get in the playoffs. Now, Philly is going to be a tough place to play. It's going to be, the weather's also going to suck there. So throwing the ball is going to be hard. But he's got stars to lean on. He can lean on Christian McCaffrey. He can lean on Kittle. And so I think that they've got a decent shot to go in there and win that game. They just need Brock Purdy from the previous month, not the last week.
The Rams have struggled a little bit the last month, but they're actually 10.5-point favorites in Carolina. Do you see them kind of working their way through the NFC like they've been a lot of the favorite most of the year, or do you see concerns there?
I think they'll be fine. So we talk about the real MVP in my mind is Matt Stafford. And I think he carries the team. In Carolina, it'll be raining again. So this is a Southern California team, not used to much rain, plays basically inside at SoFi, doesn't have to deal with weather there. So there will be an adjustment. But all I have to do is compare Matt Stafford and Bryce Young. Who do I have more faith in? Well, that's a no-brainer right there. Bryce Young has played well. He's got a rookie in Tetairoa McMillan that's been maybe an offensive rookie of the year at wide receiver. So he's got some talent. Carolina's done well. They're a losing team. So the Rams will cruise right through that one. And they're still in my mind the team to beat. And I know Seattle is ahead of them in the rankings. They're the number one. But to me, when you get Matt Stafford, who has won a Super Bowl, who is an MVP caliber quarterback in the playoffs, that's who you lean on. And then you got Devontae Adams, you got Puka Nacua. They use their tight ends incredibly well. To me, that's the team that has the target on their back. Like, we got to go get them.
Greg, do you see any sleeper just in general with the postseason about to begin? Someone that maybe isn't being as widely discussed that you could see making a run in either conference?
Yeah, I could see the Packers making a run. And it's a matter of how well Jordan Love plays. They have a tough task to go into Chicago and play against Caleb Williams and the Bears. The Bears have a good run game, so in a wintry mix of 35 degrees, they'll lean on that. In the Bears, their defense is good because of turnovers. They give up a lot of yards, but they get turnovers. So if the Packers can find a way to take care of the ball, not give the Bears their turnovers that they could capitalize on, they can make a little run. Jordan Love has all the ability right there. And so we've seen the roller coaster that has been their season. They've looked great. They've looked terrible. If they can catch that spark at the right time, that could be a sleeper that could advance.
Aaron Rodgers looked like he turned the clock back a little bit Sunday night against Baltimore. They're getting DK Metcalf back. Do you see this as the end of the road for them against Houston, or do you think that they could win a couple games?
Yeah, I think it's the end of the road, the end of the career, the end of the time for Aaron Rodgers. So they shouldn't have beaten Baltimore. They shouldn't be in the playoffs. And they are going to struggle against the Houston Texans team. Now, having DK Metcalf back is huge because he's huge and comes up with big plays. But Houston's defense is outstanding. And Aaron Rodgers is not mobile. And Houston has two of the best pass rushers coming after him. And so, we've seen Aaron do some great things. It's impressive at his age what he's still able to do. But with that comes limitations. And I think that Houston defense is going to come after him. And Pittsburgh just doesn't have the firepower to keep up with them.
Greg, final one from me would be about your level of surprise at the John Harbaugh news and where you think the right landing spot would be for him next.
Oh man, anywhere is the right landing spot for him. So a guy that, like Mike Tomlin, has been forever with one team, has had success with one team, could instantly create culture at another team. Somewhere like the Raiders that need that steady ship, that strong voice, that proven leader, because they have to change their culture would be a good spot. And in an NFL locker room, a head coach is not an X's and O's guy. He can be like Shanahan with the Niners. A head coach is strictly the voice that motivates, that gets everyone on board, that gets everyone believing and pulling in the same direction. And at some point, that message just doles out. And that was 18 years with the Ravens. And so they're just deciding to make that change. And I think Harbaugh would get it as much as anyone that with Lamar Jackson coming towards the latter years of his career, now he could still have a nice stretch, but it's time to change that voice and see what kind of spark they can create and get more out of Lamar Jackson. But if I've got a vacancy and I'm looking for a coach and I know I've got a proven leader like that, I'm ready to sign him up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I went back to Andy Reid with the Eagles. Now, he didn't win a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but you look at this like encore with Kansas City, and obviously it's been one of the best runs in football history. Just wonder, John Harbaugh, now he's older when he's leaving Baltimore. I think Andy Reid was in his mid-50s, and now he's in his late 60s, and John Harbaugh's in his early 60s. But I just feel like there's another 5-year run in John Harbaugh where he's going to win another Super Bowl. And we'll see if that happens or not. But it seems like it's very possible for that to happen on the other side. Greg, enjoy the weekend, and let's do it heading into the divisional weekend next Friday.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you guys next week.
All right. Great stuff from Greg Camarillo, Football Night in San Diego on NBC 7. We'll take a timeout. We'll get to the wrap on the other side here until 6. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, John Schaefer and Sammy Long. Now, Sammy's going to stick around for another 15 minutes. If you miss Ryan Battertelli, Aztec assistant, you'll hear that coming up at 5 p.m. Me and Brent will be with you until 6 p.m. here tonight. Knock on wood for my voice. It's honestly been a lot better than I expected. Again, it's like, we'll get to the wrap in 60 seconds, but it's like, I feel like I can relate sometimes. This is such a dumb analogy. What I'm about to say. Like, it's like being an athlete. But it's like when you're out, and then it's like, should I come back?
You've been activated off the injured reserve.
Yeah, is it going to be the same? It's like, there's certain things. It's like in what we do, it's like you have to be able to talk. Like, if you don't have your voice, it's going to be a problem.
Well, people were letting us know in the text line. They were like, "Where's John? Where's John at?" During Fletch and I, we're like, we need him back.
Well, I'm back, and we'll be with you tomorrow night. San Diego State and Fresno State blackout 8 p.m. Pregame coverage at 7. Looking forward to be on the call for that one. But right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
It's a two-parter. Who wins tonight, and does Miami have a shot against either team?
You start, Sam.
I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with Oregon. I think that the fact that they've had one look at Indiana, I know Indiana threw a pick 6 in that game earlier this year, but kind of fought back. Dante Moore has evolved as a little bit of a passer. Malik Benson at the receiver spot. They have a really good kind of trio to get after that Indiana defense. I think Oregon wins, and it sets up a really good matchup. I think Miami does have a shot against either, but would have a better game against Oregon.
I agree with you. I think nobody's talking about Oregon. This has been like an IU coronation. I think Oregon is going to they're going to be looser and freer, and they're trying to avenge an earlier season loss. I just feel like a lot of it points to Oregon, other than the fact that the game is being played in the East. But I'm going to take Oregon in the close game tonight over IU. And then if it is Oregon-Miami, remember Mario Cristobal left Oregon for Miami, which I think is additional, fuel for Oregon, which has never won a national championship. So I kind of like Oregon to win this entire thing, truthfully.
I also think that Alabama was way overrated heading into that game. So I give Indiana a lot of love for 38-3, but I don't think Alabama has the same caliber that Oregon's faced.
No, I completely agree. So I think Oregon in a close one tonight, and I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon won a close one against Miami in about 10 days. Next question.
There's 4 road playoff favorites this weekend. How many upsets will we see?
So you start. So that means you're saying if a home team
there's 4
wins
road,
if they're dog.
So the road playoff teams are the Rams, Green Bay, Buffalo, and Houston, who are favored.
Gotcha.
Okay, I think your Bears win Saturday night. So what would that be? So I think the Rams win. I think they're going to win on the road, but they're not dogs. And then I part of me wants to pick Jacksonville. I picked Buffalo earlier on the show, but now I'm going to roll with Buffalo because I do think Josh Allen gets it done. I think Chicago gets it done at home. I think Buffalo road favorite wins. I think the Rams road favorite wins. And I do think Pittsburgh actually beats Houston. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh and Chicago get wins.
Yeah, it's interesting. Home dogs, road favorites. There's no path for the Panthers. I do think the Bears win. I'm inclined to take Buffalo because of everything we've talked about all day. I think the Niners cover. I think this will be a close game. So I think the Niners cover. I don't think the Chargers cover. And then you like the Steelers. I'll take the Texans. So I don't even know where that gets us, but
so you have one upset. I have 2.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the question. Do you think the Rams cover their big spread?
10.5. A lot of points. I kind of think they will, don't you?
I think so. I don't see. Like they were playing bad football down the stretch, no tackles and no Devontae Adams. I think they bludgeon them bad.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Panthers aren't good. Like that's a problem, and the Rams are.
And Bryce Young shrunk against Tampa Bay. What's he going to do against the pass rush for the Rams?
Next question:
is there any chance A.J. Preller does not get extended?
I mean, I think if they're letting him make all these moves, to your point, John, the only way that would not happen is if A.J. Preller decided I don't want to be here. But considering that spring training's coming up, I think he has to get extended. I think it's just a matter of time. But the Padres ownership certainly has their eyes on other things versus trying to put the team in a position to win a championship this year. So I think he will get extended, but it is agonizing the wait.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a chance he doesn't get extended. And if he doesn't get extended, I think it's his own desire, as we touched on earlier. I think the Padres want to keep A.J. Preller. Dennis Lynn wrote about this in The Athletic. There are a few issues potentially there, like the CFO, Eric Grupner, whatever this role is, CMO, is under contract through 2029. So are you going to line up Preller with Grupner? And if you do, you're extending him 3 years. That's a very long time to extend someone. So it'll be interesting to see how this comes together. I think ultimately we'll get news of this one way or another, that A.J. Preller is going to be here beyond 2026. But I think there's at least a scenario where he doesn't get extended. It's a scenario I don't really want to see. Next question.
What second-year quarterback do you have the most faith in this postseason between Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Drake May?
I do not have faith in Bo Nix. I think all these fourth quarter comebacks are going to come back to bite them. They barely beat a Chiefs team with their third stringers. The Giants, Jets, Commanders, all these teams, bad teams picking in the top 10. He had to have late comebacks against. I don't trust Bo Nix. I trust Drake May. I think he has a good game against the Chargers, but I am going to go with Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams getting Rome Odunze back. We'll see with Luther Burden if he's going to be able to play. The offense with Ben Johnson has been clicking, and because the defense is, like Greg Camarillo said, extremely turnover reliant and not just a great sound defense. If the Bears are going to go far, it's going to be because of the offense. I trust Caleb the most.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Bears have been a terrific story, but you know what's been a better story for me is New England. I mean, their year has been unbelievable. 14-3, 2 seed in the AFC. I mean, I don't know if it comes down to if I'm trusting of the quarterback in Drake May, but I'm kind of trusting in the coaching and just where they're at.
That's the Vrabel effect is real.
Yeah, like 14-3, Mike Vrabel. Who goes further, the Patriots or the Bears? I think the Patriots will go around further than the Bears. So whether that's divisional round, conference championship, like, what do you think about that?
So the way I agree with you there, because the Patriots are set up at the 2.
Yep.
So if you say that their hardest matchup might be Buffalo, you think just terms of Josh Allen in division rivals,
that'd be at home.
If Buffalo wins, they'll be going to Denver. And if New England wins, that means the Chargers are gone. So they wouldn't see Buffalo until the AFC Championship game. So I think the path for them is very well. Them against Houston, them against Pittsburgh. I think they would be favored against both.
Sammy, appreciate you hanging out, man.
You guys are the best, man. I love being on with you guys.
All right, we're going to continue until 6 p.m. Sammy Long's on his way out. We'll be back with you on the other side, getting you ready for Oregon and Indiana, the second semifinal of the college football playoff. Plus, if you missed Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State men's basketball assistant, as the Aztecs get ready for Fresno State tomorrow night, you'll hear that conversation coming up at 5 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. The Aztecs are back at Viejas Arena tomorrow night when they take on Fresno State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will start at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip a little after 8 o'clock. The second college football playoff semifinal game is about 10 minutes away from kickoff here when they start the Peach Bowl between number 5 Oregon and number 1 Indiana. The winner will take on Miami for the national title. In SDFC news, the team is parting ways with Chucky Lozano. And we have Lakers basketball tonight on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on Giannis and the Bucks. Pre-game coverage starts at 7:15. The tip will be around 7:30. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or to drop out and help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, John Schaefer and Brent Sperry with you until 6 p.m. If you missed our conversation with Aztec men's basketball assistant Ryan Battertelli, you'll hear that coming up at 5 p.m. Brent just touched on the fact that the CFP second semifinal will get underway in just a few minutes. This is Oregon and Indiana after last night's epic game between Miami and Ole Miss. I think when this is all done, and for a moment, it's all about like on field, right? Like college football is a sport that is enamored with off field, right? The drama of like rev share, NIL, transfer portal, expanded playoff, format, conference schedule, non-conference schedule. Like everything is about everything that happens off the field. And very rarely is it about what happens on field. We're finally at the point where it's like put everything else to the side. And you had this ridiculous game last night. It's just an epic college football game. We haven't always gotten that even in the playoff era. Playoff era has been largely blowout era. We've seen blowout after blowout after blowout. Forget about group of 5, power 5. There's just been blowouts. We've seen Oklahoma blown out in games. We've seen Clemson, even Ohio State. It's very rare when you end up in a game that comes down to a final possession. And last night was epic. It went back and forth all fourth quarter long. That is my hope for tonight and for a week from Monday in the national championship. I just want good football games. I think that by and large, that's what viewers want. I think when we look back in the ratings yesterday, why are they going to be really, really good? Because it was a really, really good game. And college football, listen, for a lot of people in this country, I'm sure for a lot of our listeners, it's not the NFL, but it's the second most viewed sport in America, more than the NBA, more than Major League Baseball, more than the NHL. So you're going to have, tens of millions of viewers tonight for Oregon and Indiana. And then you'll have even more of them a week from Monday night in Miami for the national championship game. And listen, the format matters to me and the sport and its future matters to me. But what also matters to me is just being able to sit down, turn on the game, open a kombucha, and enjoy compelling, good storylines in football. And for a moment last night, Brent, we got it. I hope we get it again tonight.
For me, you're right. It's not the NFL. And I like that they don't try to be the NFL. It would be so easy for them just to go, just carbon copy, we'll have the exact same rules, when it comes to overtime, pass interference and everything else. And we'll just be just like the NFL. And college football is like, no, we're going to do our own thing. That's why, like, me and Jonathan were talking when you were gone last week about how, the Oregon coach wants to just make it so that you wouldn't have a neutral site bowl game until the finals because they wanted to play home games. But then we're just the NFL. I'd rather, play 3 bowl games in 3 weeks and have it be different opposed to, no, you'll just play at home and it'll just be just like the NFL.
Yeah, there is something to your point. I mean, there's something unique about the college game. That is what people enjoy about the college game.
Yeah.
Now, is it losing some of that? Yeah, I understand it. I think for a lot of people turned off by NIL, rev share, or transfer portal? Yeah, I think ultimately they are. But that's what makes last night so special for me. That for a moment, you're like, forget about what this player is earning. Forget about where this player has played previously. Just enjoy the back and forth. Just enjoy a damn good college football game. The one thing that is hard for me, although I guess I appreciate at the end of the day, it's hard for me that Indiana has become Indiana, or Ole Miss can now, be in a game with a blue blood. But I think, honestly, I think people would prefer it. Like, do you want this? Do you want the same old story every year where it's always Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson? Or do you want fresh blood? And like Miami hasn't been a dominant player in the sport the last 25 years. They are now. Ole Miss traditionally hasn't been anything in the SEC. Look at Indiana, one of the losingest programs in the history of the sport. Do you like that this new world has opened the door for programs that otherwise wouldn't have been included in the system?
I don't mind it because you knew this was going to happen when you started doing NIL and transfer portal. That was the whole point of it, was to make it so that it wasn't just, and they can deny it, but we all know that like those bigger name schools, they were paying kids under the table and everything else. And the NIL kind of just made it a little more even because now everybody could pay players. And if Indiana ends up winning the whole thing, they're going to be the testament to NIL because, it's like Sammy brought up. They're like one of the worst, football. They're the definition of basketball school, to where we have a football team. Why? We don't know. We just have one because we're kind of required to, but we don't put any money into it. We don't pay any attention to them. The ultimate basketball school, the Hoosiers, is now this football powerhouse. And how long did it, did it take years? No, it took 1 year.
Overnight.
Yeah,
it happened overnight. I mean, it wasn't long ago, as someone that grew up watching Big Ten football, you would watch a game involving Indiana at home. There was no one there in Bloomington. Like if Indiana was playing Northwestern, the place would be 35% full. If Indiana was playing Ohio State, it would be 80% full, and 70% of those fans would be Ohio State fans. So I think Indiana fans recognize this, and they're treating it like it's they're experiencing like the time of their lives. You're looking at a game tonight, for example, in Atlanta between Indiana and Oregon. Look up, right? And I'm seeing on social media, 95% of the fans are in red. You're looking at, they couldn't sell out their stadium in Bloomington 5 years ago, nowhere near it. And now they're selling out neutral site games in Atlanta that seat 80,000 people with 75,000 Indiana fans. So I think Indiana fans are like, hey, listen, we spent the last 50 years with nothing. We better appreciate this. Who knows what the other side looks like? Maybe they change the rules again. Maybe we're downtrodden sooner rather than later again. Like they're treating this like this is a special moment in time. Let's embrace this. And they're packing Atlanta, Georgia. They didn't even pack their own stadium 3 years ago.
The Alabamas of the college football world, they'll turn their nose up at, Indiana and all this. But it's like you said, they actually appreciate it because they've been bad for so long.
Yep.
And, it was a lot similar with, me living in Wisconsin when Barry Alvarez went there, and everyone knew as soon as they went to that first Rose Bowl and they played UCLA, there was people that didn't, they didn't give a, what about the Badgers, that all of a sudden now everybody had their Badger Rose Bowl shirt or the Badger Rose Bowl hat. Like there wasn't two houses, in the neighborhood that didn't have at least 4 of those hats. I remember my dad bought one to wear and one just to keep as like a momentum because they were so happy that they actually did something. And it shows with Indiana because, and this isn't a knock on Oregon, but they've been here before, so they're fans in a certain degree. They're not fickle, but it's not new to them. If you're a Ducks fan, you might be saying, oh, well, I'm not going to go to the Peach Bowl because I want to save up in case we go to the national title game. Indiana fans aren't going to do that. They went to the Rose Bowl because, if they don't win, there might not be anything after that. And now they showed up at the Peach Bowl because there might not be anything after that. They're not banking on there being a tomorrow. They're just living in now.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. It's one of the better stories in really the history of college athletics. And now we live in a world where Oregon is an underdog. Like with Phil Knight, like they don't have the resources that Indiana has, and Indiana is the big dog in the block. And this should be a very good game. I hope it is. I think the game next Monday will be a good game, whether it's IU against Miami or Oregon against Miami. But I mean, it is shocking to see a Peach Bowl where you have 70,000 people wearing Indiana gear.
Well, it's shocking just to see people care about the Peach Bowl. I joked to somebody earlier today. It was just like, yeah, we'll get some more memorable Peach Bowl moments tonight, just like
Yeah.
there isn't any memorable Peach Bowl moments, so they're going to start from scratch. I did think it was cool, real quick before we go to break, that the Aztecs actually made it into
I saw
the
that
pregame show.
into the Dante. They were talking about Dante Moore,
Yes.
the Oregon quarterback who transferred from UCLA. One of his first college starts was at Snapdragon Stadium,
And they showed him getting sacked by the Aztecs.
Yeah, and that was whenever that was 3-4 seasons ago, before Sean Lewis and Brady Hoke was here. That game was at Snapdragon Stadium, a game won by UCLA over the Aztecs. Dante Moore is a true freshman, started that game for the Bruins. All right, we're going to hear from Ryan Battertelli, Aztec assistant, coming up at 5 p.m. I want to get back to the Padres, the business at hand between now and spring training, and why A.J. Preller has not yet been extended. We'll do that on the other side. We're here until 6. We'll keep an eye, at least one eye, on the Peach Bowl tonight as well. The national semifinal between Indiana and Oregon, the second meeting of the season between these two programs. IU won at Oregon in Eugene earlier in the season. The winner to the national championship game to take on Miami. Stay with us. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Ryan Battertelli coming up at 5 p.m. If you missed our conversation with the Aztec second-year men's basketball assistant, San Diego State is trying to remain perfect to the Mountain West when they play Fresno State tomorrow night at home. It's a blackout game, 8 p.m., so wear black if you're going. Listen, beginning with our pregame coverage at 7 p.m. We'll keep you updated on the Peach Bowl, a national semifinal between Indiana and Oregon that will get underway momentarily. We started the show talking about the Padres and their, would you label it as a quiet offseason? It actually, the reason I wouldn't go that far, even though it's been pretty quiet, is hear me out. Schilt gone, Stammen in. I didn't expect Michael King to be re-signed. So that to me was a +1 when they signed Michael King. Now, it's still relatively quiet. I wouldn't call it eerily quiet. I would say relatively quiet. They added the Korean hitter and song. They retained Michael King. They've done some things on the edges. They missed out on some of the Japanese players we talked about, Kazuma Okamoto, Tetsuya Amai. They missed out on A.J. Preller. Was still waiting on this contract extension. We'll get into it. But what would you say, Brett? Is it eerily quiet? Is it very quiet? Is it somewhat quiet? How would you describe it?
I think it was expectedly quiet.
Yeah, probably.
Because, any realistic fan and someone looking at it from the outside didn't really think they don't have the money to go out and make some huge splash, and they don't necessarily have, not the credit, but they don't have the prospects and stuff to make a big splash through trade. So there wasn't really, the only way that they would be able to make like a big splash and do something that would make noise would be if, they did something crazy like trade Tatis or one of the bigger name players, which, that got thrown around a little bit here like a month or two ago, but I don't know if I really believed it. So I think it's been expected how quiet it is. Cause like I said, I didn't think they were going to do anything special. And a lot of the guys that they have signed have just been kind of like, no, okay. Well, so like they're not going to make any difference.
You could actually make the argument that we expected it to be quieter because we found out a few months ago that they were up for sale.
Yeah.
So typically team up for sale isn't going to be like free spending and wheeling and dealing. Yet they've still been able to maneuver and there's still work to be done. We don't know who's playing first and we don't know who's at the back of their rotation. And
it's like the same stuff every year.
It's the same thing every year. I agree with that. Now, we started the show talking about something that Dennis Lynn wrote about yesterday in The Athletic, which is, well, why hasn't A.J. Preller been extended when the organization has publicly expressed a desire since the end of the postseason to extend A.J. Preller? And I'm doubling down on my working theory, which could be completely inaccurate, but you just sometimes get like these like senses, like the Sixth Sense. It's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. You have this theory like, well, hold on. If the organization has publicly said they want to extend A.J. Preller and the season ended, 100 days ago, October 2nd, that was roughly 100 days ago. We're much closer now to the start of next season than the end of last season. They'll start March 26th. They'll start spring training in weeks right after the Super Bowl. So in like 4 weeks, my working theory is it's not because the Padres don't desire to extend A.J. Preller. It's because A.J. Preller, I don't know if he's slow playing it. First play of the game, pick 6 for the Hoosiers. Unbelievable. They threw a pick 6 in Eugene earlier this year and overcame it. First play of the game, Dante Moore, a tailor-made textbook pick 6 on an out. The corner jumped the route, and from 25 yards out, Indiana scores on the first play from scrimmage and leads 6-0. Incredible. So Indiana's in good shape 10 seconds in very good shape 10 seconds in. So that's going to be fascinating to see how
it is so loud in there.
Oregon recovers. And Brent's telling me because he's listening back to the highlight, how loud it is in there for Indiana. We told you in the pregame, it's 95% IU fans in Atlanta for Indiana and Oregon. And the Hoosiers have jumped on the Ducks and lead 7-0, 11 seconds in. They did not start the game with the ball. They lead 11 seconds in, 7-0. But back to this A.J. Preller thing for a second. And I'm not saying that Preller won't be here beyond 2026. I'm just sensing that he's weighing options. He wants to know. Wouldn't you want to know this? Who am I working for? Well, guess what? The team is up for sale. What are the terms of my extension? Who do I report to? What's the power structure like within the organization? What's the length of my extension? What does the extension pay? all of these questions, as in, I'm sure the Padres desire to keep him beyond 2026. But does A.J. Preller have what he needs to commit to the organization long term? Because this much I know, that if Preller is no longer the general manager of the Padres after 2026, he'll have suitors. He will have options. And I don't know what those will be, but he's going to have options in 2027 and beyond. So listen, does Preller need the Padres? Yeah, I mean, of course. He's done good work here. He's made his mark here. But also, like, don't the Padres need Preller? Because I think that if you walk away from A.J. Preller, I can't assure you that the other side of that, with the ownership in flux, with the payroll where it is right now, like, are we certain that the other side of A.J. Preller is going to be more fruitful than the last 4 or 5 years? So I just would say be careful what you wish for. I think most Padres fans, by and large, want A.J. Preller back. I think the Padres want A.J. Preller back. But how badly do they want him back? Are they willing to give him 2 or 3 years of an extension? Will the organization kind of run through him from a power structure perspective? These are the questions that I'm thinking about, Brent, as the offseason is heading now towards the season, with spring training about 4 weeks away.
How much of this do you think is them just worrying about the lockout? And if you're them, would you rather have him sign before the lockout, or just doesn't matter? You know, they can wait till after the lockout.
No, I think they're going to have to do it before, because if his deal is up at the end of this season, he'd be a free agent if we get to the lockout. You know, I mean, he'd be on his way out. I think if we get to the end of the season and no new deal has been agreed to, then I'd be very surprised if A.J. Preller was back in 2027. That to me would be like a rabbit out of a hat if the Padres are able to pull that off. I think you have to get it done in 2026. I think the longer this plays out, and I still think there's a very good, I mean, it's very reasonable to assume that there will be some type of an extension, and maybe he's got the leverage so the deal works more, you know, in his power in the weeks ahead. But the longer this plays out, if we do get to spring training and he hasn't signed a new deal, I think a lot of Padres fans will be wondering what the future of A.J. Preller looks like in San Diego. And I do think it'll be a huge talking point to begin spring training. Not that it's going to like overpower the season, but remember that you're heading into a spring training where people are going to be asking about ownership. You're heading into a spring training where if A.J. Preller is only under contract through 2026, that's a significant talking point. We never hear from John Seidler, so we don't really know the vision that the ownership is trying to play out here in the short term or in the medium term. Are they going to sell it? Are they going to hold on to it? What impact will the lockout have on the franchise? There's a lot of these open-ended questions that are going to have to be answered. And I'm sure they will be. There's still time. It's just like the open-ended questions on the roster. Jim used to always say this. Remember this, Brent? Jim would always say, oh, they still need a left fielder. They still need a catcher. They still need a starting pitcher. I say, well, yeah, but it's still January 9th. It's like you can do it all in 24 hours. You can make a trade. You can sign a player. A.J. Preller is never going to be one to be caught with his pants down. I don't know if that's the right thing to say or not, but I mean, they're going to field a team. They're going to have a complete roster. It might not be the team or the roster you were hoping for, but they'll fill out the rosters, and they'll do it again here in 2026, even with Preller's future in doubt and with the organization exploring a sale.
Well, and it's easier too when you're filling out rosters with, like, in terms of like pay scale, low level guys, because it's a lot easier to, you know, go to the store and buy a bunch of groceries if you're buying them, you know, at sale price and you're getting them for cheap, opposed to, you know, oh, you only got $50 and you got to go get this, and you have to somehow make it work. So I think that it'll be easier to just flesh out the team knowing that they're not going to have to go after some guy that's going to get, you know, $30 million a season or something like that. And a lot of the guys that they're going to go after aren't necessarily hot commodities with the rest of the league, to where it's like, you know, if they don't go and get a first baseman that, you know, might not be like a big name, just your basic first baseman, there's not going to be a lot of rush, because it's not like everyone's lining up just to go get, you know, Joe Blow first baseman when they could just get somebody else.
And that's what has happened the last 2 or 3 off seasons. They kind of slow play it. They kind of pick from the bottom of the barrel. They've made it work to some extent. Not every transaction, not every signing, but again, Nick Pivetta was coming off an average year. He had a great year. There's other examples of that, obviously, over the last couple of years as well. All right, Aztecs basketball getting ready for Fresno State tomorrow night. San Diego State trying to improve to 5-0 in the Mountain West. If you missed our conversation with Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State's second-year assistant to Brian Dutcher, you'll hear that on the other side. Plus updates from the Peach Bowl where Indiana leads Oregon very early on a pick six. They lead 7-0, trying to get to the first national championship game in school history. Final hour coming up next on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Aztecs are back at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Fresno State. Our pregame coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8. In SDFC news. The team is parting ways with Chucky Lozano, and right now in the Peach Bowl, they're a couple minutes into it, a pick six on the very first play from scrimmage by Indiana, and it is 7-zip Hoosiers. And we have Lakers basketball tonight on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. Our pregame coverage on that one will start at 7:15. Tip will be at 7:30. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, final hour here. San Diego Sports 760. Again, a reminder, we have Aztec basketball tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Aztecs against Fresno State at Viejas Arena. If tickets are available, they'd be at goaztecs.com. If you're going, make sure to wear black. It is a blackout. Our pregame coverage will begin at 7 p.m. We caught up with Ryan Battertelli, second-year assistant to Brian Dutcher. We started the conversation by asking him what the difference was down the stretch Tuesday night in that win against Nevada.
I think the biggest thing was our togetherness and our toughness. I mean, I think, winning on the road is really challenging and really hard, and our ability to make plays and stay connected. And we needed everybody. And we say it all the time, like, we need everybody. Obviously, everyone knows about our depth, but we really needed everybody in that game. And we were really connected defensively to finish that game, to make, to get the stops that we needed. And then we were in the right spots for each other to make plays offensively. And that's what you need on the road. Sometimes it's not that pretty. We certainly don't think it was a pretty win by any means, but we were together, and we felt like we were the tougher team. When the cards were down, and we stayed connected, which I think is the most important thing for this team as much as anything.
Hey, Coach, the depth's been fantastic for State, but looking at that game specifically, Miles Byrd seemed to take on a really aggressive role, especially coming out of half. Early three was really aggressive. Can you speak to him kind of being more aggressive from the field offensively the last few games?
Yeah, we need Miles to be at his most engaged, aggressive best on both ends of the floor. And a lot of it, offensively is taking the plays that come to him. And he has spent a lot of time, watching film over the last couple of weeks and really figuring out, how to find his spots. I mean, even from last year, the evolution of how he's being scouted is a lot different. And for every young player, they have to address those things as they go through the season. I mean, he's at the top of the scouting report, and he's going to be guarded that way. A lot of times he'll be defended by the best players. And sometimes that means, he's got to, free himself up for other guys. Sometimes it means, he's got to be aggressive himself. And so I think that just that aggressive mentality to make plays, whether he's actually shooting the ball or making plays for others, is the most important thing. And he's getting better and better at looking, multiple plays ahead more so than, at the thing right in front of him. Like, he's starting to read defenses better. He's starting to read help. He's starting to see angles on his drives and penetration. He was really able to get to the paint in this game, which was awesome. And if he gets to the paint, if he, he'll draw a lot of defense, and whether it's offense for himself or offense for the rest of our team, it's all good things when he's aggressive.
Ryan Battertelli, San Diego State men's basketball assistant, with us right now. Aztecs and Fresno State. We'll get into that game. That's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Can you speak again? I mean, this is a constant question that's come up all year, but can you speak to the depth you have right now and the quality of play that's coming off the bench, which has been such a staple this year? But it was that quote-unquote second unit that got you back in the game. It was 14-2. And then all of a sudden you look up and it was a 1-point game at the half, and it was a lot of really good play from guys, again, coming off the bench. So what was it about that second unit, specifically maybe on Tuesday night, that allowed you to get back in the game?
Well, I mean, I'd say that, what is it about our second unit is that most of our guys on that second unit would start at a lot of places. I mean, we have real talent coming off the bench, and starting games is sometimes hard, especially on the road when the team is fired up and ready. And Nevada was on one. I don't think we were really a step slow. I thought they played really well. But as they wore down a little bit, our second unit came in and took advantage of that and did what they do. Everyone talks about BJ, and BJ has been great off the bench, Taj DeGorville was spectacular in terms of his readiness in that game and his aggressiveness, and that's both sides of the floor. Those guys were ready, when their time was called, and they've stayed ready. And I think, accepting that role is not the easiest for young people sometimes. But the reality is they've, to a certain degree, accepted the fact that they are going to play, really important minutes for us, and that value is more than we can even, speak on. For those guys to be ready and for those guys to give us that kind of depth, and to play against, another team where they look out there and go, man, these are their backups. They don't look like normal backups, and that's a huge benefit that we have. And you look at our stat sheet in conference, we got, I think, 7 guys that are averaging 8 points or above. I mean, so as a guy that's scouting games, you're scouting your opponent, you look at it and go, okay, what do you do with that, right? And so there's challenges for the opponent when they're trying to scout us, and that's part of our strength.
The last 2 games have certainly been nail biters from a fan perspective, but been thrilling games to watch, and Aztecs coming out, on top on both. When you look at games like that, like early on in the year, obviously everyone would love for the Aztecs to run over them and beat them by 30. But there's something that kind of helps your team out moving forward when you're in a nail biting game like that, the 3 overtime game and the one on the road last night or Saturday night.
Yeah, I'd like it to not be nail biting either. We're stressed along with everybody else in Viejas, especially on that Boise game. But we say all the time in coaching, like, you'd much rather learn off the wins than the losses. And so there was a lot of teaching things that we were able to draw from the Boise game, and obviously even from the Nevada game, in those close games, because, until you actually go through those situations, you sometimes don't address it. You try to do as much as you can in practice. You try to do situational things, different, circumstances that you go through. But until you go through it, you're able to really look at the guys and talk to them about time and score. And what are we doing here? What are the matchups? What are they looking for? How do we need to defend this possession? What are we looking for offensively? And to learn those lessons off of wins are a lot more fun than the losses, obviously. But that's conference basketball. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, the guys knew it. It wasn't at halftime. There wasn't any complacency in the Boise game. Every guy knew it. We had to go out and have a mentality that it was 0-0, and Boise had to play the way that they did to come back in that game. And then we had to play we did, to make sure that we came back and took care of business. So that's conference basketball, against 2 really good teams and a rivalry in our league. And so there's going to be more of that. Unfortunately, we know what's coming. And those games are going to come down to, who's the toughest, most competitive, most connected teams that can execute at game time. I mean, that's what it comes down to, in conference games. And obviously that's what it comes down to in March.
I still can't believe that Boise game. Thinking back on it, I mean, honestly, it's almost an unbelievable game if you watch it in its entirety. Ryan Battertelli with us right now, San Diego State men's basketball assistant. Just speaking on where you are, and you've touched on this over the last handful of minutes, but what's the next step? Like, for San Diego State to get where it wants to go, what's the evolution you want to see right now moving forward?
We just need to continue to improve. Like, we need to go through every one of these experiences, these game experiences, and improve from them, and become more consistent and become, more connected, and to look out there and know what we're going to get out of every single guy. And that comes with time. That comes with experience. That comes with game experience. That comes with chemistry. Every guy is playing their butts off and trying their best to assert themselves and to earn more minutes on this team. As coaches, you always look and ask your guys all the time, when you're out there, what can I count on you for? And that's what we're looking for more than anything with each one of our guys. What can we count on them for? And the more consistently that they can make, positive plays, both offensively and defensively, the better we'll be as a team, and the closer we'll get to reaching our potential. I mean, we know the potential of this team is extremely high. We know our talent level is really high. Building chemistry and getting a better feel for what we can consistently, count on from each and every one of these guys will determine the level that we get to. And so we're asking for that every day from our guys in practice. And then obviously as we go through these games, we're looking for that all the time. And if you look out there we're in the last, 4 or 5 minutes of the game, as a fan, those are the guys that we count on the most. Those are the guys that we, trust the most, really. At the end of the game. And sometimes it's who's playing well throughout the game. And so maybe different guys at different times, but that's the most important thing for us as coaches is knowing what we're going to get out of guys, in terms of their execution, in terms of, just being able to just know what they're going to do out there and be at their competitive best. And all the guys, are really talented and want to do it. Some guys are at different stages of that in their career, and we're learning that as we go along with this team.
Fresno's a very guard-oriented team. What are you looking for tomorrow night to kind of attack that defense? What are you looking for against Fresno specifically?
Well, they're a dangerous team. I mean, just like everybody in our league to a certain degree. I mean, they had Nevada beat at home. Nevada came back and made a game-winning shot. They're competitive in every game that they've played, even though their record doesn't necessarily reflect that in conference. But they're a dangerous team. I mean, they have a returner in Collins who's really talented, a dynamic guard. He has great speed and he controls the pace of the game, or at least tries to. And then they have a transfer from Clemson who's really talented, who played at Air Force before he went to Clemson. Who's really talented and is very problematic in terms of what he does offensively. So they're a dangerous team and they're a talented team. And then defensively, they're tough and physical, and they do different things to give you a tough time. And so, our biggest thing is try to be as aggressive as we can for us to dictate what we do both defensively and offensively. Make them uncomfortable with our defense and the things that we do with that, and then offensively control the pace of the game. Dictate to them, rather than let their defense dictate to us. And that was the message today in practice, is that we have to be in that mode where we take what we want in this game, and that will determine, the level of, success that we have in this game. So that's going to be our focus more than anything, but they're very dangerous. And obviously we know what it is when teams come and play us. I mean, it's an ability for them to be able to, to get a feel for where they stand in the league. If they can play against us, they can compete against us, if they can beat us, it gives everybody confidence. And we know we get everybody's best shot, especially in Viejas.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And Fresno, to your point, vastly improved, coming off a big road win. They won going away against San Jose State. This is tomorrow night, Viejas Arena, 8 p.m., a blackout. So if you're heading to the game, wear black. Tickets, if available, at goaztecs.com. San Diego State and Fresno State for the only time in the regular season here in 2026. Ryan, always appreciate you taking time for us, and we will see you tomorrow night. So thanks for doing it. All right, great stuff. Ryan Battertelli. All right, updates from the Peach Bowl, the semifinal between Oregon and Indiana. On the other side, we are here until 6. Brent's back page is still ahead as well. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. Right, we've got NFL playoff football on San Diego Sports 760 this weekend. Tomorrow, Rams Panthers pregame at 12:30, kickoff at 1:30. Then Sunday, Chargers in New England at the Patriots, pregame at 4, kickoff at 5. Right here on San Diego Sports 760. So we'll get into the NFL postseason coming up. But last night we talked about that playoff, that epic game between Miami and Ole Miss, won by the Hurricanes. Tonight is picking up where last night left off, because remember we had like 4 lead changes in the fourth quarter yesterday. We're still in the first quarter tonight of the Peach Bowl between the top seed Indiana and the number 5 overall seed Oregon. It's 14-7. We've already seen a pick 6, then a 75-yard Oregon drive, and then Indiana answering with a touchdown pass just a moment ago to go up 14-7 with 40 seconds to play in the first quarter. I'll say this right now, watching this play out as we're on air, so we're not listening, but just kind of watching how this playing out. If Oregon wins tonight, it's going to take an incredible effort because they've already trailed by touchdowns multiple times. Brent already told you they're basically playing a road game. I think he said it was loud as hell inside
it's super loud,
the Mercedes-Benz Dome or whatever it's called in Atlanta. So, and Indiana hasn't lost all year. So you've got this team that's unblemished, that's basically playing a home game, that's had a pair of touchdown, pair of 7-point leads in the first quarter. Like, it's going to take a near perfect game from Oregon to win. And we'll see. There's still 3 quarters to play. And Oregon, tied the score a moment ago before Indiana took a 14-7 lead. But I hope it comes down to the fourth quarter, because everything I'm seeing right now out of Indiana is like they could blow people's doors off. They did it to Alabama. They've done it all year long. They beat Ohio State on a neutral field in Indianapolis about a month ago. So Indiana's playing some incredible football. We'll see if Oregon can keep up here tonight. To switch back to Wild Card Weekend, which is getting underway tomorrow with Rams Panthers and Packers Bears. Listen, it is interesting what Sammy was talking about earlier, which is you have 4 home teams in Wild Card Weekend that are underdogs. And there is no world where all 4 of those home dogs lose. Sorry, not happening. There is no world where Carolina, Chicago, who else? Pittsburgh, Jacksonville now I think is a 1-point favorite, but has been a dog, I guess, heading in. I'm sorry, out of Chicago, Jacksonville, Carolina, I don't like their chances either. And Pittsburgh, someone's winning, right? There's no way. There is no way 4 home teams all lose Wild Card Weekend. Now there's 6 games overall. Patriots are favored at home. Who else do you have favored at home? Eagles are favored by 6 points at home against the Niners. But would you agree there's no way those 4 home teams are all going to lose this weekend, are they?
You wouldn't think so. Just the odds would tell you that at least one of the home teams would win, just with the percentages. But I don't know. I'm just worried because we're playing Green Bay, and I always worry when we play Green Bay. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad, or if we're good and they're bad. It's one of those things where all their guys just always seem to be super wide open every time we play them. And so, yeah, I'm really, really nervous about tomorrow. I'm probably going to be completely useless for at least the first half of tomorrow's Aztec
I was just saying, so that's
full
interesting.
disclosure.
So that's interesting because Brent's going to be on the board as he always is as our studio director for Aztecs basketball. And our game tomorrow tips off at 8, but pregame coverage at 7. What time do the Bears start?
It says 5, but then Amazon Prime put something that said 5:30-ish. So I think it's going to be closer to 5:30 than 5.
Oh my gosh. So but
I'll get the first half in, and then after that,
oh my gosh,
Fletch will have to help.
Yeah, I was going to say, how are you going to do that? So you got to do the Aztecs, you got to watch the Bears. This is the one week, even though Jim's only been gone for a week and all hell is broken loose because I've lost my voice. This is the one week I kind of wish Jim was here. Because we would have heard his reaction to their nightmarish loss to Seattle, where they had everything in the world to play for. The difference between a 1 seed and a bye, or playing in Philadelphia, now a path through the road to make a run in the NFC or get to a Super Bowl. And you can only imagine what Jim would be saying this week. Season's over, waste our opportunity, another injury, we've got no shot. Why are we even talking about this? Like he must be completely beside himself, let alone the fact that he moved to Philadelphia and the Niners are in Philadelphia this weekend. He's going to be watching, but how intently will he be watching if they go down 3-0? Is he going to go to the movies like he typically would.
Well, see, here's the boat that he's in now. And I know this because I used to be in this boat. He won't be able to escape it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like how when, the Packers would beat the Bears when I lived in Wisconsin, you couldn't avoid it because no matter where you go, even if they are getting killed, if you think going to watch Avatar is going to get you away from it, it's not. If anything, people are going to they're going to pinpoint you and go, "Oh, you're here watching Avatar during the Eagles game? Oh, you must be a Niners fan."
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. So he'll be watching and he'll be probably hating his life. Like, imagine Jim, if the Niners lose and he's a month removed from moving to Philadelphia and every day it's 35 and snowing and it's dark out at night and you're clearing frost off your car every morning. I mean, that's a lot. Like, and then you're looking at people wearing Eagles jerseys every single second and Eagles flags and Eagles this and Eagles that, and they went through your team. Remember, it was only 2 years ago that the Eagles beat the Niners in the NFC title game. Now, remember, he married a girl that loves the Eagles. So he married into an Eagles family. He's a Niners fan. They're playing the Eagles for the second time in 3 years in the postseason. Not like it's some all-time rivalry in the NFC. They've met a few times over the years, but like he is going to be completely miserable. Now, the flip side of that is if they pull the rabbit out of the hat, and they're only a 6-point underdog. It's not like it would be the craziest upset in NFL history. I mean, the Niners had a very good year. If they win in Philadelphia, like, is he going outside, like, puffing his chest in his Niners t-shirt on Sunday night?
That's risky to do in Philly because I'll beat him up for that.
Yeah, it's probably true. It's probably true. I'll probably be quiet.
Well, I said that's the catch-22 with Jim, though, is if the Niners would win, he can't really say much about it. Because he's not going to sit there and rub it into, his wife's family and everything, because they'll get pissed off and think he's a jerk about it. So he's going to have to just kind of keep it to himself and just try not to smile too much if it gets brought up and stuff like that. Because they'll get mad at him.
I asked him if he was going to go to the game. Of course, he was like, no chance. I honestly think that the reputation of Philadelphia sports fans and him moving there and seeing how they consume like the Eagles, for example, like, I think he's scared off by it. Like, I even think that if he was given tickets to the game, like Jim, he's not listening right now, but if he was given tickets to the game, would he even wear Niners gear? I think he would go, but would he even wear Niners gear? I don't know. I think he's fearful of that reputation, which is a legitimate reputation. So, like, you probably could get into something, and not even by your own. Just because you're wearing a Niners jersey, people coming up to you and giving you a hard time.
Oh yeah, you don't
the entire game.
Yeah, most of the time you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything.
You just have to exist.
Exactly. All right. On the other side, I want to get to a text on the text line. Text line is open 70470. Start it with the word team. It's related to the Chargers, who also play this weekend against the Patriots. Chargers in New England against the Patriots during Wild Card Weekend. Do you want to get to a text on the other side? 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll get to Brent's back page. Coming up at 5:45. We were here until 6. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This following report is brought to you by Staples. The Aztecs are back at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Fresno State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will start at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8 o'clock. The second college football playoff semifinal game is going on right now. In the first quarter, it is 14-7 Indiana. The winner of that game will take on Miami for the national title. In MLS news, SDFC has parted ways with Chucky Lozano. And tonight we got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on Giannis and the Bucks. Our pregame coverage will start at 7:15 and the tip will be around 7:30. It's a new year and Staples has fresh deals to get you fully equipped for 2026, like up to $120 off HP Smart Tank printers. This deal means business and so do these printers. Shop in-store and online today. Staples, that was easy, ends January 31st.
All right, John Schaefer, Brent Sperry. Brent's back page coming up in about 15 minutes on this Friday afternoon. Again, a reminder, we've got San Diego State basketball for you tomorrow night. Aztecs, Fresno State Bulldogs, a blackout game at Viejas Arena, 8 o'clock tip. Join us for pregame coverage beginning at 7 p.m. Brent, remind me of what it's called when you use the theory of like, well, this team beat this team and this team beat this team, therefore this team is better than that team. What's that called? But you guys know what we're talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
You know, it's like the example being, you know, here, I'll give you the example. Okay. Are you looking that up? See what it's called? You know, what is that called? That type of math. You're like, well, this team beat this team and that team beat that team. Therefore, this team is better than that team. What is that called? Someone put it in the chat or someone let me know if you know what that's called. But everyone understands what I'm talking about. Okay. So let me explain why I mention it. So there's this post on Instagram that says, did the Mountain West get snubbed out of the playoff? Because it says SMU 26, Miami 20. Okay. So in the regular season, SMU beat Miami. Miami's now in the national championship. Cal beat SMU. And guess who beat Cal? San Diego State. 34-0. Therefore, San Diego State over Miami, right? Because SMU beat Miami, Cal beat SMU, and San Diego State beat Cal. So therefore, San Diego State over Miami. And I like that. Trey White just posted that on his Instagram account. Should San Diego, but it is kind of crazy. But all this talk about, the top of college football has run away from the group of five. And maybe to some extent it's true. I get it. They've got more resources and money and the way they've benefited from the portal. I understand it. I'm not saying that, hey, let everyone in, or if you put Boise State or San Diego State in the playoff, they're going to go win 3 games. I get it. It's hard, and it's not college basketball. I understand that it's challenging, but it's kind of funny that San Diego State shut out Cal this year. Miami lost to SMU this year. It's still college sports. It's still college sports at the end of the day. So anyway, I just found that kind of funny. What is that called, though? What is that called? We'll think of it probably when we're off the air. Anyway, speaking of college football, the update from the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl is that Indiana is leading Oregon 14-7 early second quarter. Indiana's gotten the ball back again. They scored on the first play from scrimmage today, a pick 6 off of Dante Moore and Oregon. Oregon would tie the score. Indiana has since taken a 14-7 lead, and they have the ball. So we'll keep you updated on that. I mentioned the text line. I wanted to get to a text. This came in probably an hour ago, but we didn't get to it, so I want to do it right now. Talking about the Chargers and the playoffs, and you can hear the Chargers game. What is it, Brent?
Non-transitive relationships.
Yeah, it's transitive
property.
The transitive property is exactly what I was referring to. How'd you find it?
A really long Google thing. I put when team A beats team B, but team C beats team A is better. And that's what they gave me.
Transitive property. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. So there was this text that came in an hour ago from the 858 that says, still a Chargers fan and season ticket holder. I think the quote, real fans hold them to high standards, but you're 100% right. They don't track in LA. I do think nationally people are noticing Herbert's shortcomings, because the point we made earlier, there's all this pressure in the NFL for like Josh Allen to take the next step. And there's all this pressure, you know, for even Lamar Jackson, who's out of the postseason this year, to like get through the AFC or get to a conference championship game or get to a Super Bowl, let alone win one. I mean, so much pressure. Lamar Jackson, has won multiple MVPs. He plays for a passionate organization with crazy fans in Baltimore. And then same thing with Josh Allen. They've got the most loyal fan base ever in Buffalo. And then you've got Justin Herbert, who is, he's the quarterback and a very good one for the Chargers. And it feels like, for whatever reason, I think we know the reason. We touched on this earlier. It's like there's nowhere near the same pressure. If the Chargers lose this weekend, I get it. They're the 7th seed. They're an underdog. Let's say they go to New England and lose 24-17. Standard football game. They trail most of the game, never lead. Maybe they have a tied in the second quarter, but lose 24-17 or 24-14, 27-17, something like that. What's the story coming out of LA and the Chargers come Monday? Nothing. It's, well, they weren't supposed to win. Oh, they were dealing with offensive line injuries. Oh, Jim Harbaugh's done a really nice job. Oh, they'll reload and maybe they'll be in position to contend for that division soon. And they'll get to a divisional round or a conference championship at some point under Harbaugh, right? It's like there's nothing. It's like in the same conference that has Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, so a quarterback's been blocked by Patrick Mahomes over the last half decade. It's like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have all this pressure to get to the Super Bowl. And Justin Herbert is just like starting a quarterback for the Chargers. If it works out, great. If not, all good. It's the Chargers.
I think it's one of those deals where, if Lamar Jackson, wins the Super Bowl, he'll be taken out of that conversation. So then somebody else will be inserted in there. Mm-hmm. So I think, same with Josh Allen. If Josh Allen would win the Super Bowl this year, they're not going to be able to include him in the, category of, yeah, he's a great quarterback, but he never won any playoff games. So I think that they have enough people to talk about now that in the bigger NFL circle, they consider them, I don't want to say more important, but yeah, I guess more important because they talk about him more than what Herbert is with the Chargers. But like I said, if Allen or Jackson or one of them would win the Super Bowl, obviously Jackson can't do it this year, but you know what I mean? If they would win the Super Bowl, then they would be taken out of the conversation and they would probably insert Herbert in there because then there would be the void there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I do feel like Phillip Rivers was under pressure in San Diego to get over the hump. But I guess the point is, like, when you don't face, there's no local pressure. There's not going to be Los Angeles. There's not going to be this outcry in Southern California or LA for the Chargers to make that leap. Now, nationally, of course, there's expectations. I mean, the NFL is the most consumed league in America. So, yeah, you'll hear it to some extent nationally, maybe moving forward. You're right. To your point, maybe if Josh Allen gets one or Lamar Jackson gets one and Herbert, ages and doesn't win. But it's just the most unique franchise. And it's not a knock on Justin Herbert. That's not my point. It's not a knock on Chargers fans. It's really not. It's just the way the Chargers are consumed is so unique that it's so niche, right? Like, I think the city that has the most Chargers fans in America is right here, right? I mean, the city with the most Chargers fans in the world is San Diego. It's not Los Angeles. I know there's a lot of people listening to our voices right now that are Chargers fans. I completely get it and respect it. Now that, you know how it was with Jim, and I respect his opinion on it too. The second you bring up the Chargers, that loser owner, that pathetic franchise will never win anything. And I respect that opinion. But at the end of the day, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I don't put it on, if you're a Chargers fan, I completely get it. Like, if your memories are from Jack Murphy and you went there with your father and your grandfather, your mom, your brother, your sister, I'm not telling you to change your allegiance. I wouldn't either. I completely get it. I'm not a fan of changing allegiances. Like, you're kind of born into it. You were dealt a tough hand. And I almost respect it more that you've had to endure this, so to speak. So I understand that. I'm just saying that, think about it now. With the Chargers outside of San Diego, where does the heat come from when it comes to the organization? Who's putting pressure on that organization? It's not coming in Los Angeles. I don't feel it in San Diego. I could walk the streets of San Diego for a week straight and not see someone wearing Chargers gear. So it's just one of these unicorn franchises. And I can't think of another one, truthfully, in professional sports.
The weird thing is one of the weird things with the Chargers is that, and I noticed this the last time, is like you said, certain, portions of what used to be the fan base, if you even, just bring it up, they will get enraged. But we would get calls like that. What are you talking about? That we don't have an NFL team. But as soon as they made the playoffs that, a couple years ago for that like first time in a while, we got flooded with all these calls about, I've been a Charger fan the whole time and I blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, so when they win, they seem to come out of the woodworks. But then when they lose, then they just kind of turn into the Homer disappearing into the bush meme to where they just kind of disappear. So, it seems like they're not here until it's playoff time. And then all of a sudden it seems like they seem to come back.
Well, here's my point, and I think your point is valid, but my point is everything that's played out over the last decade with the Chargers leaving, 2017, whenever that was, end of 2016, early calendar year 2017. None of it to me isn't an indictment on their fans. It's not the fans' fault what played out over the last decade. You know what I mean? Like, if you're still a Chargers fan, I completely understand it. Like, I don't think you should have to hide because you still root for the Chargers, even though they left San Diego. But to take that to the next level, which is like, okay, now that we're 9 years past them moving from San Diego, it's just like, from an organizational perspective, it almost feels like they dodge all the bullets. They don't catch any flack, and there's not a lot of critiquing that comes because there's not a lot of attention on them. Imagine being in a city as large as Los Angeles and having no microscope under you. Like, the Dodgers are under an incredible microscope. The Lakers, the same thing. Maybe the Rams to some extent, I think more so than the Chargers. So it's just like they live in this, I don't know, they live in this area where they're not overly relevant anywhere. And it's just kind of fascinating to watch that play out. Are they going to shock the world this weekend? Probably not. If they do, great. And if they don't, great as well. All right. Indiana all over Oregon midway through the second quarter. They've just scored a rushing touchdown after a terrible Oregon turnover deep in their own end. IU all over Oregon right now. They lead 21-7, 8 minutes to play in the second quarter. We'll take a timeout. Brent's back page is on the other side. We're here until 6. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, final time. San Diego Sports 760 with you until 6 p.m. Again, we've got Aztec Hoops tomorrow. San Diego State, if they beat Fresno State at home, they'll be favored to do it, but they've got to do it. If they beat Fresno State at home, they're 5-0 in the Mountain West. I was asked earlier in the week, Brent, when will we get our first bracketologist on the air? And I'm like, well, I'm going to hold off a little bit. But I actually reached out to one today. I couldn't hold off too long, and I was told that it was Rocco Miller, who's
we've had him on
for
before,
years. Yeah. He was like, "Well, I got some stuff going on this afternoon. Can we do next week?" I'm like, "You know what? Let's just do next week." So we'll have Rocco Miller. I think bracketeer.org. He's very good, and I know it's only January, but I also know that we've got a couple of months until Selection Sunday, and San Diego State's in a position they're not used to being in, which is the outside looking in. But all of a sudden, they're working their way towards the bubble conversation. I think if you start looking at some of the people that do it for a living and consume it more so than even I do, you'll see San Diego State starting to pop up in like among the first handful of teams, maybe the first 5 or 10 teams outside of the field, which gives them obviously a decent shot, work to do, but a decent shot to work themselves into the field as an at-large candidate. And the way to do it is to continue to pick up steam. And that continues hopefully tomorrow night for the Aztecs when they play again, Fresno State. That'll be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Pregame coverage at 7. A blackout at Viejas Arena. Again, the update from the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl is Indiana's got the 21-7 lead over Oregon midway through the second quarter. Oregon is driving around midfield, trailing 21-7 with 7 minutes to play in the second quarter. All right. Normally, Jim's back page, but it's no longer Jim's back page since Jim left. So let's get to Brent's.
All right, just got a couple short ones today. A couple movie-related things today. We'll start with this. Do you know who Sebastian Stan is?
I have never heard of Sebastian Stan in my life.
He plays Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier in the MCU.
I've never heard of Bucky Barnes in my life.
Does. He's in a bunch of. He was in.
I've never seen that person.
He was in I, Tonya. The Tanya Harding movie, and he's been in a bunch of other stuff. He's a pretty good actor, but according to the Hollywood Reporter today, was announced that he has signed on to play Harvey Dent in the Batman Part 2, which will come out eventually. It's taking forever, but he's been cast to allegedly play Harvey Dent in the Batman Part 2, which is being directed again by Matt Reeves. And Harvey Dent is the villain known as Two-Face. Aaron Eckhart played him in the Christopher Nolan one, and Tommy Lee Jones played him in the Val Kilmer Batman. So it looks like we're getting the return of Two-Face in the new Batman movie.
What do we mean though with the phrase Batman 2? That's the name of the movie?
As in after one.
But there's been 100 Batmans.
Yes.
So is it a remake of Batman 2?
No, it's a different Batman, but it's the sequel.
Next story. I'm confused.
It's not there's multiple Batmans, just like there's multiple Spider-Mans. They all exist in their own thing. So this would be the new Batman. The last Batman movie that came out would have been about 2 years ago. Okay. This would be the sequel to that. So they started over with that one, and then it's moving on.
Okay.
And I could confuse you even more by getting into the DCU and about how
please don't.
They're gonna have multiple Batmans, but I'll save it.
When is this coming out?
They don't know. It's been delayed forever, but casting news is starting to leak out because the rumor is Scarlett Johansson has also signed on for a mystery role. Okay. They don't know what she's going to be playing. So we're getting some movement here in Batman Part 2. Other movie news, Johnny Knoxville came out today. He's kind of promoting, they're bringing Fear Factor back on Fox this time instead of NBC, and he's like the host of it because it's like Fear Factor House. So it looks like they're combining Big Brother with Fear Factor. But he announced today that we're getting a new Jackass movie. And we're not even going to have to wait very long. It's supposed to come out in June. On June 26th, we're supposed to be, I think we're up to Jackass 5. But yeah, we're supposed to get a new Jackass movie already this summer.
Is it the same as it was when we were kids with the show, where it's
Yes.
just wild, wacky
It's
stunts and craziness?
It's just that they're way older.
How many of those? I mean, I almost hate to ask it, but of the original members,
are still alive?
yeah.
Most of them. Ryan Dunn he passed away. He probably was the biggest name one. He died in a car accident, but other than that, Bam Margera, they claim he's signed on for it, but he has had notorious, alcohol and substance abuse problems and mental health issues over the last, because that's why he was left out of the last movie, which kind of caused a big stink because he thought he should have been included, but they left him out because he wasn't right health wise. They say he signed in, but it's not supposed to be new stunts. They're supposed to have like archival footage of like previous stunts from other movies. So Bam's inclusion of the movie will be from archived stunts because they probably don't feel he's healthy enough to do a lot of the crazy stuff that they do.
And how old would these people be at this point? Are they 60, 50 something?
Oh,
maybe 50 something. Like Johnny Knoxville could not be that much younger than 60, right? Maybe.
He is 54 years old.
Okay, 54. It seems like they've been around for forever, right?
Well, they have been, because you have to figure that show came
90s?
out. No, well,
Probably
early
90s.
2000s.
Okay.
Because I remember sitting in my buddy's basement watching it all the time. So I'm excited for it. I'm into, that type of humor and, watching people hurt themselves for our amusement. So I'll be excited for that. And I liked the other Jackass movies.
Okay.
I thought they were funny. So
Okay, coming out this June.
And then finally, are you familiar with the Wiener Circle in Chicago?
The Wiener Circle? Oh, wait.
I double push it. It's that hot dog place in Chicago that whenever like the Bears do something, they'll give out free hot dogs. Remember they have like the lines going around the block.
And that's from the Wiener
dogs.
Circle?
Yes.
Okay, I think maybe I've heard of it.
Okay, yes. That's the name of the restaurant or whatever you want to call it. Well, they put out today about an hour. If the Bears win the Super Bowl, we will feed free hot dogs to the entire parade, as many as we can give out, and the players on the team will receive free hot dogs at our store for the rest of their lives. But then they added to it, in addition to the offer below, if the Bears defense or special teams return a touchdown on Saturday, a hallmark of our defense, and the Bears win, more free hot dogs on Tuesday, or if Dennis Allen does a Macarena.
Wait.
Because they gave away hot dogs when, you remember when Johnson took his shirt off in the post-game thing?
Gotcha.
He did that because they said, if you take your shirt off in the post-game speech after a win, we'll give everyone free hot dogs. So he did that just to hook the city up with free hot dogs. So if the Bears get a special teams touchdown, you can get some free hot dogs if you're in Chicago. Now I feel like Jim was like, oh yeah, you can get free burgers if you live in Taiwan.
If you're in Chicago, my one knock on that type of promotion is the whole, like, if we win the Super Bowl, like, is it a bit of a jinx? Like, guys, we haven't reached the Super Bowl. This is the Chicago Bears we're talking about. Like, let's slow down before we talk about giving away hot dogs to everyone in the city if the Bears win the Super Bowl. But I like that they're doing something for this weekend.
Yeah,
specifically.
Just getting press.
I also saw something San Diego related, that the OB Pier has been closed for years, right? Because it took on like a lot of damage in a storm a couple of years ago.
Yes.
There was a story today, and I think it's accurate, someone correct me if I'm wrong, that it will be restored and repaired, but it won't be completed until 2032. So it will be restored. This is what I read today. I think I saw it on social media. I think it's accurate,
I saw that too.
That there's been delays in the process, but it will ultimately, the OB Pier, which has now been closed for years, will remain closed for at least the next half decade, but is expected to reopen in 2032. So by 2032, what's going to happen? We got U.S. World Cup, we got LA Olympics, we got a lot. We've got a lot. Shoot, we might have Indiana as national champions because Indiana has scored another touchdown and they lead Oregon. They are all over the Ducks tonight in Atlanta. First half action, IU leading Oregon 27-7, extra point pending.
We might have to do a wellness check on J-Ref. I'm just saying.
You're not kidding, man. Wow. Indiana, Miami is what we're potentially looking at for the national championship a week from Monday. Join us tomorrow. We've got Aztec basketball for you tomorrow night at 8, pregame coverage at 7. Aztecs and Fresno State from Viejas Arena. Of course, we're back at 2 p.m. on Monday as well to react. For Brent and Sammy, I'm John. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760.